I hope you're doing well. It's Tech Talk time once again. So we're going to be going through the comments of the last Tech Talk. There is a lot more than this time, probably because we had a chat about that ridiculous tech tree, but you know how it is. People always want to see new stuff, and I'm sure we'll see more new stuff going in the future. And also, there's obviously going to be a bunch of other stuff coming in the future. We're probably close to dev blogs, which will be, coming soon, which will be nice. And then also, we have the Battle Pass stuff. We have the 292 event kind of halfway through now. Seems like most people I've talked to are kind of chill with this one, at least this event, so that's good. Might do a post-mortem, not really sure. But we'll be playing some Naval today while doing the Tech Talk. And as always, if you want, thoughts or questions or discussion points, in the next Tech Talk, make sure to stick them in the actual comments of this one, so we can kind of do them over and then go from there. Been doing pretty good this week. It's been a bit topsy-turvy trying to sort stuff out, but overall I'd say pretty positive. Workouts are going great, and also kind of just ramping up for when we have the dev blog season. Got my 2 PC setup sorted. It's just made stuff so much easier, and made stuff so much faster, so I can actually start streaming a bit earlier, which is good. And then hopefully in about a week we'll be fully there for the new schedule, which will be nice. So the first one is obviously Karam-chan with the timestamps. Very, very kind of them to do that and sort it out. I did actually get a question about what about videos before we started talking about giving out stuff for doing timestamps. I was like, yeah, sure. So if you feel like putting timestamps on older videos and you want maybe a free game or a bundle or something, we could sort that out. And obviously just for Tech Talks, not for other ones. But as always, thank you, Karam-chan, for sorting that out. Then we have Andreas Diaz Garrido. Wonder what this is going to be about. Taking into account that the suggestion of the Latin tree already has more than 10,000 votes in favor, becoming the most extensive and most voted suggestion in the history of the forum, I think it shows that it's not just a matter of nationalism, but in the truth, the game community really wants a Latin American tree. No. Right, so let's go through this. The reason why that post got so many votes is because people pushed it to get votes. So there were YouTubers that pushed it, there were Discords that pushed it, and those obviously the creators who pushed it because they want most people to see it. What is interesting about it is pretty much all of the votes came within the first day, and then it got absolutely 0 votes afterwards. So the idea of longevity, or the idea of any of these ideas even having more to kind of stand on, is a bit laughable. Instead, what you have, as I said, was a concerted movement by a bunch of different people to try and get this idea pushed as quick as possible, and then go, hey, look at this number, isn't a ton of people really interested in it? 10k in the grand scheme of things is really not a lot of people. And this is another thing that also should be mentioned. At one time concurrently nowadays in War Thunder, during even this event, you have 250,000 people online at the same time, right? Which is just kind of nuts. And also, just think about it this way, right? So my channel, which, my YouTube channel isn't that big in terms of the whole grand scheme of things. The last month in January, my channel has got about 600,000 views, I think it is. So if the case that 10,000 people in this grand scheme of things is a lot, then I don't know what to do. The other thing as well is, as I said, people were just told to go vote for it, and that's what they did. They didn't take part in the discussion. They didn't take part in, commenting about it. All they did is literally get told, go vote this, so therefore people will see it, and hey presto, it works. That's not actually people caring about this thing. That's people turning up, doing one thing, and then disappearing again. That's why when you actually look at views on things, especially social media stuff, views themselves don't really mean a lot. If I have, let's say, 200,000 people who watch something, right? Let's say that exists, right? 200,000 people watch a broadcast. They all have ad block on. There's a sponsorship on the broadcast, but you don't get any actual people clicking on it. And then let's say at the same time, you know, you run like donations, you run subscriptions, you run all of this stuff, and nobody does anything. Technically, that broadcast has cost whoever, you know, hosts the service for the broadcast money because they haven't made anything from it. So this idea of like a number of people voting on something being important, it really isn't. Like, you know, if you have, let's say, 200 people, right, who actually pay for something, right, whether it's like a premium, whether it's something like, I don't know, something that exists in War Thunder, and then you have, let's say, 2,000 people who just kind of sit there and, you know, talk about things, never really buy anything, and then just kind of badmouth anything that comes around. So what ends up happening is those 200 are way more valuable, even 20 are way more valuable than the 2,000. So people who just turn up to hit a button and then disappear, that is not useful, you know? It's kind of the whole artificial look at things, right? Another thing to also mention is when you look at the pasta developers, the pasta developers gets more viewership than that every month than that specific tech tree did. And the amount of work that goes in the pasta developers, probably not as much as how much has gone into that by individuals. So in the grand scheme of things, once again, it's just not a lot. And I know people don't like that because, like, so from an individual's point of view, if you look at 10,000 people, that's huge, right? Like, and one of the ways that's actually really interesting to look at it, like, if you're like a CC or whatever, like, for me, the money stuff doesn't really come into it, but one of the interesting things is if you, like, sit there and think about, like, how many people are in, like, a stadium, for example. Like, let's say it's a stadium that holds, like, 5,000 people. Well, okay, that's double that amount of stadium. That's crazy when you actually think about, like, the size of these things. But we're not looking at it from an individual perspective. We're looking at it from a company perspective. And a company perspective goes, okay, so we have 10,000 people who have been pushed towards this thing, haven't interacted at all with the additional debates of it, have just looked at the pictures and gone, ooh, that looks cool. Are they willing to pay anything for it? Is there a market there in that region? And also the other thing that is important is this. All of these people who are actually voting on this are not new players. They're already pre-existing players that existed before, right? So if they already existed before, and this is a hook to be able to get those people to play more, you don't need it. They're already there. So in adding something like this, you're looking for a new player base. You're looking for like a new set of people to turn up with new money, with new things, right? But so having pre-existing people who are already involved in the space going, yeah, I'd like to see this, well, it doesn't really matter too much. So there's a few points. There's many more on top of all of these things, but yeah. So the main thing is looking at the scale of these things, looking at the retention of these things, and also whether this is just a January, February flash in the pan thing that people get interested in because nothing else is going on, or whether it's an actual legitimate thing. Now, since everybody's completely forgotten about it after a week, or maybe even half a week, I'm going for the former. Might be wrong, maybe we see something like that. Would I like to see those vehicles in the game? Hell yeah. Would I like to see them in that tech tree? Hell no. And you know, it makes more sense to actually put them in pre-existing tech trees already, which is how all of these debates should go. Because people are already struggling to be able to play all of these different tech trees, so adding more is just ludicrous at the end of the day. But yeah, as I said, people want to see a flag, so it's just how it is. Since this is the first thing about this, and I feel like this is going to get repeated over and over and over again, I'll probably just put like my sword in the sand here and then just say how it is. Like, it would be nice to kind of sit down and chat about this stuff, but honestly, Like, the debate is this every time when it comes to all of these things. Person A goes, I would really like to see this because I like these vehicles. Person B goes, do you think there is an overall interest that people would want in this? And also, do you think it's economically viable to create? And even, is it game balance viable, right? So those three questions. And they get answered with, yes, I think so because I like it. And I see a bunch of other people who like it. And it's like, okay, well, how do you know that's a broad amount of people? And it's like, well, because of this number. And then you use the number in context, and then it just kind of falls apart. Like, so it would be cool to kind of sit down with somebody and just kind of go through it without going, you know, into the whole, like, you know, the whole pride and the nationalism thing. But at the end of the day, like, looking at this tech tree and looking at how it's set up, it is literally that. It was pushed by members from South America who play War Thunder, and the people who are interested in are the people who are from those countries which aren't represented in the game. Now, what if I could tell you, you could add all that stuff already into the game, like they already have, in separate tech trees? Would people be fine with that? Would they be okay with that? Because you still get the vehicles that you want to see, right? You still get the stuff that's around. So why not? Why not just do it like that? I don't know. This seems kind of odd. Then we have the next one from Yipo. What I've seen on the SA tree, it seems like there is a very small amount of actual copy and paste vehicles. Most vehicles will be classified as copy and paste are actually modifications, like remotorization or armament swap. Yeah, whatever. But most importantly, I don't really see how would a nation like Brazil work as a subtree when it has the American M41 with a French cannon, a national light tank with French cannon, an APC made with Italy, and a national MBT with a Vickers turret armed with a French cannon. I think it'd probably be on Italy, but it also has a series of unique modifications on American vehicles such as the aforementioned M41, blah 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 blah. I don't see how it would work as a subtree, but I don't know really. Go look at the finished tech tree. We'll go through it after this video. Well, not video, sorry, but we'll go through after this game. I'm so used to YouTube stuff. Like, you know, just all you gotta do is like have a look at these things, right? The finished tech tree has German stuff in it. It has Russian stuff in it, right? It has British stuff in it, and technically also American stuff. How is that possible? How has that happened? It can't be done because it has so many different nations which are involved in it. How can Hungary exist with all of its vehicles? How can that be done? But yeah, for some reason this can't happen with Brazil. Or if you want a compromise of the compromise, just take all of those vehicles and stick them in the trees, right? Stick them in the trees that they would make the most sense in. Yeah, all of this for a flag. All of this for a negative experience in the game. For a flag. It's crazy. Like, the only reason you can't see how a sub-tech tree for Brazil would work is because you've decided in your head that there are these rules that cannot be broken. Where Gaijin has showed over and over and over again that they have no rules. And their rules are malleable. So stop limiting yourself because you want to see something in the game. Right? And as I said, there are already ways that you can add them with these vehicles being incredibly fun. But instead, we have to do this weird, mangled idea because somebody has decided to make a wonderful image with pictures, ridiculous BRs, and names, using Wikipedia to work out what to put in. We've actually sat here before and just shown some of the ludicrous stuff that people create. Like, there really is like a sub like set of people who really enjoy making these subtech trees, but it is how it is. El Contra, definitely an unbiased source. I voted yes on the LATAM proposal. I think it's a great idea. There were similar proposals in the old version of the forum, just as popular, by the way. No, they weren't. This one has many indigenous designs, more than some already in the game. If you don't like a new tree, don't play it, we will. It's not about whether you'll play a new tech tree or not. It's about whether it will have longevity and whether you would pay for it. And one of the problems with South America is there isn't a lot of money there right now compared to other places in the world. From an economic point of view, it actually makes much more sense to go after other places, man. If you're gonna look at stuff like that, it's actually much better to go after somewhere like India, you know? But yeah, so going back to the subtech tree idea, just to kind of show you, like, it isn't completely ridiculous to... Oh, I should have gone for this one. So if you have a look at... here we go. So this is... just close this. This is the Finnish subtech tree for Sweden. British. Soviet. Soviet. German. Soviet. British. Soviet. British. Soviet. 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 German. German. Soviet. American, technically. British. American. German. British. 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 Soviet. But how does this work? It's a bunch of different nations put together. How can this happen? They're made locally? Most of these aren't, apart from this one. Oh, sorry, yeah, the Fokker. That's either Dutch or Finnish. Depending on who you ask. So yeah. Don't tell me it can't be done, because we we literally have it in the game. Oh god, man. But yeah, like it's not about It's not about whether I will personally play a tech tree. I will of course play a tech tree if it's available to do so. I like playing tech trees. I like playing different stuff. It's fun when, you know, this stuff comes in. But the main thing that I'm saying is the Finnish tech tree gave a wonderful addition to the Swedish tech tree, right? The South Africans gave a wonderful addition to the British one. The Italians, right, with the Hungarians, added really cool stuff to them. Once again, by the way, German, German, Soviet, 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 Hungarian, by the way. So there's just 3 types in that one, as usual. But yeah, so like, the problem is, you already have an issue where you have so many different nations in the game, people just don't play them. That's why they made all the research changes, that's why they made all of these. So it doesn't matter if just one person plays them. It's the fact that you can see by like the line of what they're doing in the game that stuff like this is not going to appeal to the larger demographic. You already have a problem with percentages of what people play in the game. Why make a ton of content that is just not going to be touched? And also, if it is touched by people, right, it'll just be from South America and nowhere else. Apart from idiots like me, who will play them and then make videos talking about how they don't have full lineups, how the vehicles themselves need a lot of help in the future to try and make them better, and then just get a bunch of crazy people to come in and go, nah, so because it's got this flag on, it's actually really good, and you should enjoy it. And you know why I know that? Because that happens with every other one of these minor, like, nation tech trees. You just get a bunch of crazy people who turn up and just go, why don't you like my vehicles as much as I do? Because I wasn't born there, and for some reason that's a factor for you. Like, it's just nuts. It's so weird to me. Let's hope it's implemented one day. I love the idea. As I said, let's add all the vehicles. Let's do it. Let's add all of the vehicles into the game. It's not in an independent tech tree. Simple as. You can have everything that you want. The sky is the limit. You can have all of these vehicles you want. Just not in an independent tech tree. The world could be yours. You could have your flag. You could have everything. The LATAM Ground Forces project presented as 25,000 views on the forum and more than 10,000 votes on the forum. This is not counting the tens of thousands on other sites such as TikTok, YouTube. Are all those votes manipulated? Please, I invite you to make an objective criticism. The reason why the forums one has so many votes is because it was pushed from those other areas of social media. That's how this works, man. But also, once again, 25,000 views or 10,000 upvotes is not a lot. Let's just actually check something. And also, once again, it's just one of those things that hasn't reached the broader outlook. Let's see. Where's the YouTube channel thing for this? So I can see the War Thunder official channel. Right, so if you have a look at the YouTube channel for War Thunder, the Battle Pass Airborne General video has 16k views. The Mirage 4000 Heavy Skyfighter video has 48,000 views. Thunderstorm Danger Drum has 24,000 views. Fast and Dangerous 23,000 views. Leopard 2A7V 36,000 views. These are just random videos on stuff in the game, man. Not even like a dedicated thing which is targeted towards specific people. Just think of, and that's one channel. One official channel, just like the official forum. Just think about that. I don't even have to look at anything else, you know? So yeah. But once again, the idea has already died. Like, that's the only problem with doing these like tech talk things every like week or so, is because so one of the things we've talked about in the past that happens, especially during this time in War Thunder, so January or February, there's not really a ton going on. Now, Guardian have actually done a pretty good job this time to fill the area. So with the new event cycle, you obviously have like the new grinding. And then also at the same time, right, you had the battle pass that turned up and a few other things like the roadmap, right? So there was actually stuff to talk about, plus like past the developers. And that meant that there was a lot less kind of like January blues, game bad, blah 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 thing. The actual narrative around that is starting to change after so many years, which is fantastic. It actually, the big exodus that happened last year really helped out the community a lot. Because all of those people who were really just kind of annoyed about everything, it seemed, kind of section themselves off in specific communities, like the War Thunder, player union, like, the Reddit or the Discords and stuff. And then they just got annihilated by like either CCs or just other people who just decided to just have fun with them, right? And that meant that a lot of these like ideas of unification, or this idea of, yes, we have power, we can go forward with these things, disappeared. Because there isn't any power there. All you'll get is a post trying to deflate, the issue and then moving on. And I thought after last year people would realize that, and during this January, February it'll be a little bit better. And to be honest, it kind of has. And instead, what we have is a storm in a teacup every once in a while, which kind of turns up and then, you know, annihilates stuff around the place. As I said, like the past of developers every month just gets more than this. Always. And yeah, the fact is, in the grand scheme of things, right, it's still not a lot of people. There are like, how many people in South America? Just in general? By the way, didn't they say that Turkey had like 60 million players or something last year in War Thunder? That can't be right, right? But do you remember when they made that video? So in South America, there are 422 million people as of 2016. Right? Okay? You have 25,000. In a game which regularly gets 200,000 people concurrently every day now. What's this, dog? The dude just lied about the support? Oh, well, we can have a look. I do remember seeing the tech tree back then. Alright, let's have a look. Go to the other one. So is this the tech tree? Oh, it is. The South American, Argentina, Brazil, and Chile one. So this is on the old forum, by the way, posted in 2022. So let's see how much it has. 5 upvotes. 3 ha-has. Big numbers. Massive. I don't know. He literally put it all, look at all this work, man. Crazy amount of stuff. Updated and gone through. But yeah. That's it. So please, this was, by the way, this was what? Year and a half ago? Year and a half ago. So please, don't just don't bother me with this, man. Like, as a person who's been, like, sat here for a long time, physically and mentally, when it comes to this stuff, it's incredibly obvious to me when something is pushed. Because it just appears like that. And it appears from Discords, and it appears from YouTube channels. It's really not hard to do, man. Like, you want a funny thing? Here, let's, because there was a video last year where I decided to meme on people. Because I'm super sick of, the thingy culture.
That from that moment on.
The kind of leak culture stuff, right? So I made a fake T90M leak last year, which came out just before the T90M devlog was coming out, and you'll never know if I knew it was coming out or not. But so that video has 32,000 views, and it's a completely fake video. Crazy, isn't it? So that video, which is just me lying about something to prove a point, you know, which we talked about in a video later on, literally the next day, got more views than the tech tree. Which shows how crazy the numbers are when it comes to this stuff. But yeah, it's just kind of how it is. Like, people can be disillusioned by it. It's fine. Like, at the end of the day. Like, think about it this way, right? Like, numbers can be very much moved all over the place. You can buy views for a start. And then, second of all, at the same time, if you have a look at certain stuff, it's like, oh, War Thunder has like 60 million users, right? So why do you only have, you know, maybe 1 million at most logging into a game every day? How does that work? Or maybe 2 million or 3 million. Where are the rest of them? How does that all set up? How do you work that out in your head? Because it's just about created accounts. right? Just because somebody clicks on a page or even decides to vote something after being told to, it just doesn't mean that it's, you know, that it's that big of a deal. But yeah, one of the problems I've had in the past when it comes to War Thunder is I've decided to be objective. Because I think it's super important to be objective when discussing these things. And I've been lambasted for years for trying to be as objective as possible when it comes to all of this stuff. Because what you end up doing while being objective about this stuff is you annoy people. Every time you talk about these things. Because they look at you and they go, why don't you like my thing? Why don't you support my thing? Because it doesn't make any sense. But because they have that bias for that thing, you can never get around it. Now imagine if you've done that for years and with several different sets of people, being one of the only people to actually say, no, this is silly. Ooh, NC223 talisman. That's nice. And imagine how many people just despise you because of that, right? So this idea of being objective, this idea of like doing these things properly, I've been trying to do it for years, and I think I've been doing a pretty good job. No matter what the idea is, it needs to be taken apart, you know? It needs to be. Probably later, Rocker. Oh, 2 seconds. Got a phone call. Yes? Okay, there we go. Sorry, just had to sort something out. So yeah, it's one of those things you kind of just get used to. And when you see it over and over and over again, it becomes incredibly obvious, like, what's going on. Like, I've been doing this kind of content creation stuff for a really long time. And because I've been doing it for a long time, you see weird things get pushed all the time and how narratives get formed super easily. And even over, like, the last few years, I've been bored and actually done some myself, right? Like when it comes to like doing those silly videos about like, oh well, why do people hate this, or why do people love this, or you know, even you know, discussing certain things like spawning or things like that, and just doing it in certain ways. Like it's the whole thing is just manipulation. And as you know, as we've talked about, all you have to do is have a look at these things and just wait a week, right? Just wait a week. And if people are discussing them within a week, like if you think about people discussing them within a week or a week later, and it's become like a broad thing where people are looking at it instead of just in specific spheres or just in specific areas, okay, then maybe we can start thinking about it. But even to get to that point takes a lot of effort. And also at the same time, you know, it is very hard to do it organically. The reach that a video or a forum post that gets is incredibly small compared to a lot of other stuff. Even if you look at certain YouTubers that get hundreds of thousands of different things, you know, or different like views per day or per month, whatever it is, the amount of influence a person like that has compared to just that forum post is insane. You've really got to stop seeing these things as individual, like independent, oh, look at this number. You got to look at it at the overall like hierarchy of the thing, which is completely different in the grand scheme of things. Once you start looking at it like that, and instead of looking at like individual places like that, it'll make a lot more sense. I'll be back in 2 seconds. I've just got to sort something. Sorry, there was a delivery. Just had to sort it out. Alright, there we go. Have you done the Esport challenge yet? And what did you use? I tried Tiny Tim and they didn't work. I mean, I did the F4U7 for the medium ones, and then for the, if you're struggling with the higher ones, I'd use, I think, HVARs. You can overpressure AAs or open top vehicles with that, so it's not too much of a bad idea. I used the N1K, but that was just because I was grinding out the Type 99. I don't recommend doing that at all. So yeah, that was an interesting one. Then we have a Climax. Hello TEC. I was wondering if you knew about this. So in RIB you don't have a spawn point system and therefore no easy way to tell if you're up or down tiered. Therefore you have to rely on checking your allies' planes and their BR. I've however had 10 to 20 matches last month in which I noticed that my team had maxed, let's say 10-7, I was at 10-3, and then the enemy turns up to 4-11-3 planes, making the match very skewed to one side. Right, okay. I feel like this is being talked about quite a lot again, and I don't know why. I find it annoying to not know which BR I'm at, since that influences how I approach the match. And also the imbalance from the start I find jarring, even if I can overcome that. Usually my teammates can't. Do you know what's happening there? It didn't used to be like that a couple of months ago. Thanks and have a great day. Well, BR changes. Usually usually can happen. Well, he's playing air realistic, Peter the Great, so there's no spawn cost there. So basically, when it comes to air realistic, what you should base what you think the BR of the match is, not on the highest tier vehicle on your team, but on the lowest tier vehicle. So let's say on your team you have a bunch of 9.3s and 9.7s, then you have to make the assumption that the game that you are in is a 10.3, 9.3 game. There is a problem, not just in air realistic, but in every mode, and it's the fact that you do have these systems, which is quite nice, where I can't remember what it's called. It's a fantastic word, but I just can't remember its name. But basically, the highest BR in a match can only have 25% worth of the team. So most of the time that means four people who are at like the top BR in that BR spread in that game. So if it's a 9-3, 10-3, you can have four, 10-3s. There's a problem with this though, and the problem is pretty simple. One team can have four of them, and the other team can have zero. So it isn't like a minimum, it is a maximum. So you can have on your team, four of them, and then on the enemy team, they could have zero, right? So it kind of sucks. But at the same time, the other thing, if that system wasn't there, what you could have is you could have a full 10-3 team versus a full 9-3 team, which is what used to happen. Now, in air realistic, this happens quite a lot, especially around the BRs that you're talking about. And the reason for this is because there actually are not many nations which actually have vehicles around those BRs. So what you're seeing is a classic case of, because there isn't a ton of vehicles around those BRs, they are incredibly likely to get up-tiered or down-tiered because people are going to be playing other BRs based on either premiums that they're playing or based on just whatever meta vehicles that they're playing at the time, right? So what ends up happening with those kind of setups is pretty simple. Like, you can just get annihilated and it sucks. With, the amount of vehicles that can just, absolutely dome you. If you actually have a look at the 10.0 and 10.3 vehicles in the game, specifically 10.3, there aren't a lot of them, right? So you have like the F8U2, the F5C, F5A, I think. You have the MiG-21 SMT, I think it is. And then I think that's about it, like, when it comes to it. So you have not a lot to choose from, and therefore it's just, there's more chance that people are going to be playing other BRs than the ones that you are playing around. So you are more likely to go up or down, and because you're more likely to go up or down, you're more likely to notice this issue with the matchmaker. Now, the way that they could fix it is they could mandate, okay, in a match you have, 3 of this BR, 3 of this BR, 3 of this BR, 3 of this BR, but that would massively increase queue times, obviously. And also, the other thing that it would do is it would mean that certain nations, if, they just got one nation on their team, they wouldn't be able to actually field a lineup, technically, of players at those BRs. So you would just kind of, personally, you'd just be kind of screwed, right? And that sucks. That's really crap. That's the case. So it's by making the issue better or making the issue less, they have formed a problem which exists now within the issue. And you just have to ask yourself, right? So would you prefer this, or would you prefer that not being there? Or would you prefer the massively increased queue times, where sometimes you might have a bunch of people who would just never find a match because of how the BRs work in the game? So yeah, it's very jarring and unrealistic because of the fact that, especially in jet BRs, there are very obvious meta BRs. 10.7 for the longest time was a meta BR, because of stuff like the F5E, because it's busted as hell, but they didn't put up in BR because people complained. So you have these like 8790, 9093 used to be one of these BRs too. Still kind of is, but yeah, is a little bit all over the place. 11.3 is also one of these right now, because of how, you know, the things have changed over the last period of time. So you have all of these kind of interesting changes around the place, and that changes where these BR issues are. And you'll probably realize that we had the BR decompression for air recently, you know, the 12.7 stuff. So a lot of those problem areas are no longer like at a specific BR, they're now at a slightly different one. So if you're playing the same BR, you will now experience them more compared to what you did previously. So that's basically it, right? That's how it all works. As I said, it is an issue with the system. It's not a huge one. There are a lot worse things about, but it is something that can be noticed quite aggressively, especially in air, since, you know, checking planes and checking what you have and checking what the enemy has is very important. But yeah, base your checks on the minimum BR plane, not the maximum. It'll make it a lot easier while you kind of go through these things. So we have Insane Robert. Let's see. Hello, TEC. Hi. Hopefully you're doing good. What do you think about a gunship mechanic for bombers similar to how ships work? You basically get the option to order your gunners to engage ground troops, air troops, both or none, if you let the AI aim and shoot for you. This option would give light bombers more use in game, especially for the ones with big caliber turrets like 20mm facing forwards, like some of the German and the Japanese light bombers do. The downside for this tactic would be that you become a big juicy target flying at low altitude. I mean, to be honest, I think that's actually kind of a cool idea. I like it. You know, as long, you know, you'd have to be a bit careful because accuracy would play a major factor, right? So you would need vehicles which weren't, or you would need the turrets to not be that accurate, because otherwise they're just gonna like annihilate everything super quickly. Like think of like a B-17, right? If it's allowed to like go nuts. But then again, if you compare a B-17, which is a similar BR, to an AD or an AM or an IL-10, they can already do that. So yeah, maybe that's not too much of an issue. But yeah, I kind of like that idea. And also what they could do is they could bring in that YB-17 thing, or you know the B-17 that they loaded with guns. Like the idea was it would like stick in the middle of a formation of B-17s and kind of be used as a central gunship to be able to keep a bunch of them alive. And yeah, they could add it in with that mechanic. That'd be kind of cool. I like that idea. That's pretty nice. Like I think overall I would be down for that. It would make a lot of the like moving around as well of those things a lot easier to do, because there is, you know, sometimes like aiming gunners can be a bit of a pain, but I think it should be like a straight switch, so you can't attack air and also ground at the same time, because then obviously people would just never turn it off, and you know the gunners would kind of just go wild. So I'd be fine with that. I think that would be quite good to see. Yeah, why not? Let's have a bit of fun with that. That sounds good. Nice suggestion, that one. So then we have Kedapike. Personally, I'm not a fan of the audio changes. I think engines are a bit too quiet now. Well, they fixed that in the last one, so yeah, obviously it was a general thing. What's better, Naval IB or AB? Give both a try and see which one you prefer. I know a lot of people will say that it's a cheap way to play the game, but it really isn't, because the audio is universal. It isn't like heli camping, where you're giving yourself an unfair advantage, while the other player can't really do much about it. Everyone can hear engines just the same. Sometimes it's even instrumental in performing well in up tiers and light vehicles, when knowing exactly where your enemy is and which direction they're going to help prevent from getting shot and allow you to flank. It added an entirely new element of tactics to a game that is increasingly becoming point and click in tiny city maps. To be clear, there were vehicles that needed audio changes, such as the Abrams. but that was more of an issue of individuals rather than the entire game. Yeah, I agree. Well, they fixed it now, but this was made 4 days ago, so once again, like you got to remember that the change log was a few days ago, right? So, but no, I completely agree with all the stuff. Like when that audio change came out, it was very hard to hear engines, and even though it kind of benefited me because I ended up getting 2 nukes off the back of it, it still didn't really feel very fair because it neutered a lot of people, right? Like my eyes personally don't work too well sometimes, especially with some of the colors in the game. I recently got a screen which actually made it easier to see stuff, so that's like a huge bonus for me. But for a lot of people I know, they use audio a lot to be able to see what's going on. So I think it is better that it is back to where it was now. So I'm hoping that they can kind of continue that and kind of make it a little bit better than it was previously. I think right now it's fine. The only thing I would say about audio. I just wanted to see the 10.0 thing. For audio, what I would like is a presets thing. So I could actually, if I'm playing like Naval, for example, I want to be able to change these because Naval is a lot louder. So for aviation, for realistic, right? So let's say 10.3. So or even like 10.0, right? So 10.0, you have the F8U2 and the F4C, right? For Germany, you have nothing. It's literally nothing. For USSR, you have nothing apart from an Su-25. Okay. For Britain, do they have a 10.0? No, they don't. So no 10.0 for them. No 10.0 for China. No 10.0. Yep, no 10.0 for China. There's no 10.0 for Italy. For France, obviously you have the F8E and the Super Étendard. Okay, so we have 5 10.0s in the game. And then no 10.0s here. And then also 1 10.0 here, the Shahak. Oh, and the Nesha. So we have 7 10.0s in like the standard game, right? So let's have a look at like 10.3s. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, just in the American tech tree. Then we have 5, 5, technically 6, but we'll just call it 5. And then we have 6, 7. So we're already at USSR and we're at 7, right? And then 8, 9. And then 10, I believe. Yeah, 10, 11. And then for China, I think we have some too. 12. Yep, 12. And then they're at 10, 7. 12, and then 13, 14, 15. 16, 17. And then that's it. So you have 7 versus 17. And a lot of the 10.3s are a lot better than the 10.0s, right? Like, so you see how that can show, like, how if you get like a 10.0 to 9.0, even then, unless you have America or what was it, USSR on your team, there's only like a very small amount or France. Oh yeah, the AMX, there's actually 18. So if you get like a 10.0 to 9.0, but let's say one team has France and America on it, there's only one other plane in the game where you could have against you that's 10.0, and that's the Su-25. Crazy, right? Like it's nuts to think about. And that's why like BR decompression can be a double-edged sword, because it helps out certain areas, but it weakens certain areas so aggressively that you will get these weird matchups that we talked about, you know? But yeah, I think the audio is in a good place now, but it was a bit rough at the end of last week. I did like the changelog they did, where basically they just said, we changed this noise because it was too annoying. So we made it less annoying, which is quite fun. So then we have paper. I believe you're thinking of Panzer II J, as the Panzer II would be the Lux. Oh, the L? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was. I got the Panzer IIs mixed up. Because, yeah, there's two ones which they haven't added, which I feel like people kind of enjoy. And that's because they're in World of Tanks, and also because, you know, they're slightly different from what we've seen before. And it is the J, which is like the up armored Panzer II, but they didn't up the gun, and then the Panzer IIL, which is like the more mobile Panzer II, with the 20mm. Unfortunately, they never gave it a 30. It would have been nice if they did. So we have Keegan Gallop. I wish they would bring down the repair costs for the Arado 234s. 16k and 18k is insane. Are they that much? God damn. After they did those changes to how repair costs work, I haven't actually seen any insane repair costs. But that's crazy if that's the case. Like, I do remember back in the day, there was some nuts ones, like the Clerk being like 20k, the 122 being 20k, a lot of bombers being like 50, 60, 70k. But yeah, even back then, like when people complained about them, and you know, I showed like why I showed why it was happening. Like, not that I agreed with it, but like, or why people, like how people were abusing the system, right? Like, why did bombers have that high of a repair cost back in the day? Well, just because people didn't kill them, you know, because there is kind of a surefire way of playing bombers, which, you know, we went through a video on a while back, on how to do to make it so you don't die. You know, you spawn at the start of the game, you turn like 90 degrees, you grind, or sorry, you climb like 5 degrees, war emergency power, and as long as you're not fully up-tiered or something like that, just wait there for 5 minutes, you know, read a book, and then go from there. Some oh, for sim mode, like the Arado ones, goddamn. Well, yeah, I don't know how sim mode repair stuff works, but I mean, I feel like in the grand scheme of things, when I look at all this stuff, you know, repair costs are in a much better place than they were. Like, at least for me, you know, I've cracked the 100 million barrier. And I don't know, I think I was on like 70, 80 million last year, kind of dawdling about, and I spent like 60 million on the crates when they were about, so yeah, it's... SL really is like something that it's so easy to get now, and I honestly think, you know, once again, they've made it so SL isn't really an issue for a lot of people, but also now what they've started doing is they've started ramping up the SL crates and other boxes, and they're going to start ramping up more stuff like that, so you have more stuff to actually kind of spend on your SL, so it makes you feel like you have less, even though you don't. Because if, let's say you have like, you know, a certain amount of money, but previously you only bought one thing over and over again, then you know what that is. Now imagine if that one thing became like 7 different things, but each of them cost 20% of what you had previously, right? So let's just say they did that. Now what that means is it's 20% times 7, you know, which is, why did I pick this one? 140%, right? So now you're actually paying 140% for the same product, and all they've done is just cut it in 7 times. So for SL, I kind of see that the way that they're doing that. So before, the only thing to really spend SL on was like crew skills, expert crewing, buying vehicles, right? Now they're going to introduce a bunch of things that you can use SL to buy stuff with, and no individual thing is going to have a higher price or whatever. Like, it's going to be the same price, but because you're buying a bunch of different ones, it's going to eventually be more. It's kind of like the package deal versus buying all of the different ones individually. Like how a lot of people recently have been complaining about how they need like subscriptions for everything. By the way, which you don't. Like, you don't, if you feel like you are spending too much money on subscriptions, like, you know, media services to watch stuff, I can honestly guarantee you you are not going to be able to watch all of the stuff which is even on one singular one of those platforms. So don't. What you need to do is a rotation, right? So 1 month you do like this platform, next month you find a deal to do the next platform, and then you just rotate it on what you would class as a logistics day. If you have a logistics day every month, you're able to, you know, basically get rid of that subscription, add another one, check all this stuff, and then it doesn't pile up and go crazy over time, right? Works very well. But yeah, so I think that's what's more likely to happen in War Thunder itself. Oh, nice Hunter Shark. Yeah, that's another one to do, the A1H. So we have Gulag Kulak again. Lovely name. Here's one idea for a minor quality of life improvement in War Thunder. If you land a burning plane on a friendly runway, the ground crews should put out the fire. Many times I've sat there burning, waiting for the repair timer to tick down, hoping that fire doesn't destroy things faster than they're being repaired. Yeah, I'd be fine with that. You know, if you made it home, you made it home, right? Like the whole idea of this stuff is that you made it back, right? And you know, if you've been watching stuff like, you know, Masters of the Air, for example, you realize if people are struggling getting back to base, they scramble the whole crew. You know, they get the fire engines out, they get the medics out, they get the engineers out, you know, to make sure that you're all right. Now, obviously, you can't really simulate that a huge way in War Thunder because you have all of these different, you know, things, and it's all simulated in a timer. But you know, that was, if they want to push towards like this realistic idea or whatever, that might be something to consider. Once again, just a pretty nice idea. You know, two bangers so far. My God, that's fantastic. Good stuff. We got the kind of auto fire extinguisher thing, which I think is really cool. And then also we had the kind of gunner switch where you could switch between hitting air and ground. Pretty nice. Well done, everybody. Big ups. Now we have Shadow Dweller. What's your computer setup? So right now, my computer setup, I have 2 computers right next to each other, and an Elgato kind of thing which connects them. And the reason for this is because doing everything through one PC, since I do like streaming, but I also do YouTube stuff, and also just like other things that I want to do while I'm streaming. I was doing like 3 or 4 things at the same time, which was putting a lot of load specifically on the CPU. So my main computer, which is called Gertrude, Gertrude has a 3070 Ti. It has a high-end i5, and it also has standard like air cooling in it, and some SSDs, some HDDs. It's the main computer that I've been using for a long time, right? So the new computer, which I put together last year, but only started using this year because I only had time this year to actually set it all up, is called Mavis. And Mavis has a 3060, has the same i5, so another high-end i5, and also the same motherboard as Gertrude. So the big difference between them is the graphics card. So one has a 3060, one has a 3070 Ti. I've had the 3070 Ti longer than the 3060. The 3060 we picked up last year with Mavis, but yeah, so that's pretty much it. Mavis also has a liquid cooler on the CPU, whereas Gertrude, as I said, just has air cooling. Matrix is the guy who helps me build my PCs. He's a really nice guy. He works, you know, in the computer stuff in America, and he also runs class, or is one of the guys who runs class, I should say. Hey, Dejan, nice to see you. And he's just, you know, he's really good at this stuff, and he's helped me build like 3 or 4 PCs. We just built my missus's PC, which is called Agnes, So that's got a 4060 in it, and also the same i5 once again that that these ones have. But if you're interested in the specs, I actually put them in the description of the video. Not of Mavis, but of Gertrude, because Gertrude actually, you know, is the one who does like the processing, does like the streaming part of it, and does the content creation. Mavis literally just plays the games. So yeah, that's why now, like before when I was playing Naval and also doing all this stuff, my FPS was like 30 or 40, and now I have it limited to 120. So the issue was just the amount of stress that was going through the machine was ridiculous. So now it's just a lot better than it was before. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really want to upgrade anything. I have like 3 monitors, so I have like my main one here. We did just get a new one just because it had a higher hertz, so it has like I think 150 or 60 now, or 175. Before I was running on 75. And then so I have one 24-inch screen here, standard like 1080p Elgato webcam, and then 2 screens which are over here, which are like, you know, basically these 2 screens are connected to Gertrude, where this screen is connected to Mavis. And the way that they're attached together is through an Elgato through HDMI. So yeah, that's basically how it is. Storage wise, I have a metric ton of hard drives, just because, you know, I have so much worth under footage that, you know, I use all the time. I have footage going back to like 2021, which is pretty nuts. So yeah, that's the setup. I have lights, you know. I got 2 sets of keyboards. I got one wireless keyboard, one wired keyboard. Actually, the one thing I do want to change is my mouse. I've used the same mice for like 5 or 6 years. I go through them like every like year and a half. They just end up dying in some way, which is fine. But they're only like $20 mice. Like I don't want to buy a really expensive one because I feel like it would just, if it broke, it would just kill me. So yeah. So I'm looking for a mouse which actually has lighter clicks. I don't know. I know that sounds really stupid, but once again, one of the things that I've been trying to improve recently is audio, and I've improved like the mic audio recently. And one of the things I'm noticing in videos, because I have Sennheiser headset as well, just as next one, the Game Zero ones I think, and 2 green screens behind me. But the the thing about it with the good old mouse is I can hear the clicks in the videos, like when I'm clicking through things. So I kind of want a more silent mouse, so I don't hear those. But I haven't found a mouse which has as heavy of a click as this one, which also feels really nice too. So we'll see how it goes. My favorite plane is the Hurricane Mark 2B. Love that one. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole setup. You know, I want to actually add some things to it. What I would like to add is I would like to add a standing desk, and I have a pedometer under my chair that I use, but I kind of want to get one of those like walking table things. So that's like another thing to think about. Just because, at least for me, it's pretty important to keep mobile, since if I'm sat down for 8 hours a day and, you know, playing games and doing all this stuff, it's not really great for the general blood flow, which is why, you know, I've been moving to, you know, get more mobile as I've been going. So those are like the 2 areas I've been like thinking about doing, but the standing desk thing can't really be done until I figure out one of the key issues, which is obviously the wires, because I don't think some of my wires are long enough. Because a lot of people have like their computers under their desk, right? But for me, for airflow reasons, my computers are actually on a table to the left of my main desk, so all of the wires come across. Now this is fine, but if I have a desk which, you know, goes up, then obviously that strains a lot of the wires. So I have to kind of rethink, and I'm going to set that up. But yeah, that's just something which is just an additional thing on top of, you know, what's kind of going on. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question. I think I went through everything. Don't think there's anything else. I have an Insignia keyboard, you know, whatever that is, and I have a mouse which has a T on it. Like, yeah, not really huge into the peripheral stuff. I have no idea what my microphone is. When it comes to its actual type and things like that. Like, I have it written down somewhere, but I have to have a look. So then we have I suck at BF5. I mean, fair enough. So do I. Do you reckon Gaijin would ever consider adding the Churchill Avery with the 290 gun? Maybe like a British holiday? Would it be good? Because I have no idea what that thing fires. It's the Spigot, isn't it? The Spigot mortar? Isn't that the name of it? It's a very, very low velocity, round, which I believe, isn't it a spring or something like that? Like it's something ridiculous. But yeah, it has a super low velocity and is obviously designed to kind of just annihilate a building somewhere. That's pretty much what it was there for. I can't remember if let's see, was it the Churchill 4 that had it? Because I don't know if it was a one-off or not. When it came to the types, but there was definitely kind of interesting. Oh yeah, the 230 petard mortar. That's what it was, petard mortar. So yeah, no, never mind. The Churchill Assault Vehicle Royal Engineers was a Churchill 304 armed with a Spigot mortar. That's the one. The effective range of the 230mm high explosive flying dustbin round was only around 80 yards of 230 yard maximum range. It had 6 crew. Goddamn. So yeah, there you go. The issue with it is it really is just designed just to kind of fell something. Like, you know, you've cornered a house somewhere and you can't get into it. So what you do is you just level the house. Like, that's kind of how it is. Hey, Camas, nice to see you. We're doing the tech talk and also doing the other stuff. Could they add it? Yeah, of course. You know, there's no reason why it couldn't be added. And also at the same time, would it be cool to have? Yeah. You know, I think it would be a cool event vehicle or a cool just random vehicle to kind of put into. I think after the crocodile, you know, there's a few others they could generally add in. But yeah, I'm all down for more Churchills. I'm all down for more British vehicles. The Centaur, of course. You know, being another one which could be quite nice to use. Always kind of sad the Centaur and the Covenanter and the Cavalier haven't made it yet. Hopefully at some point they do. Especially my Covenanter, my love. One day. Very underappreciated tank. Then we have a Likey Cut G. The Commonwealth all goes in the UK tree and that's final. People just don't get it these days. You just don't get it. I'm more than happy with all my Anzac equipment that's been put in at the moment being in the UK tree. If we are Uganda T62 tank turret on truck bed needs to be added. I mean, I'd be down for that. But yeah, I mean, look, it's a simple thing. Do you want your vehicles to be in the game? Yes. Do you want them to actually be fun to play alongside others? Yes. Well, there you go. We've come to an agreement. And also, this means that you don't get a bunch of vehicles that are, you know, a bunch of premium vehicles or event vehicles. Anybody can get access to them. You know, it just makes a lot more sense, at least in that way. But it's how it is. Good old Anzac stuff. So we have Oricom. Hello, Tech. Been a while. Always nice to see you. How far out do you think end of the battleships are for America, Japan, Britain, Germany, Italy, and France are? Also, how far do you think the Chinese and Swedish naval trees are from coming into the game? So I think it's more likely we get the larger vehicles for those nations before we get the Swedish and the Chinese tech tree. Just because of the amount of work that has to go into it, right? Like, if you think about the French tech tree that they've added, which is the most recent one, you know, they added a lot, which was pretty cool. But then more recently, the ones that they've more added have actually been kind of copies of other nations' vehicles with added in features. So like the combatant, for example, stuff like the what is it? Which one is it? Is it the Marceau? Yeah, the Marceau as well, which is kind of like that. And then also they added a bunch of like random premiums, which is weird. And also the Battle Pass vehicle, which is very similar to the stuff that we already have. Like, it uses a lot of the features that we've seen previously, right? Whereas that might not be the case for, you know, stuff like China and Sweden, especially if they want to go unique on it and give them a little bit of something to be interested in. So we know for a fact that a lot of the larger ships for Germany, America, and others are done, right? Like remember the Alaska? It was actually shown in the new Power trailer, but it only came out like a year or two later. Crazy, right? And then also the Tirpitz, which was leaked in like 2018, 2019, 2020. And also, you know, we have the War Thunder Mobile stuff, which kind of shows how many vehicles have been around, you know, the kind of sat around the place in development. So for me, when I look at this stuff, what I see is I see more of a chance of those things turning up than the other nations. It would be lovely for me personally. I really like parity, right? Like, parity is super important. I think it's good that different nations or all nations have access to the same mechanics and the same kind of like vehicles and setups. But, you know, if we're talking in general, I think it would make more sense for them to keep, you know, pushing on towards doing these bigger and bigger and bigger ships in a way. So yeah, it's just kind of how it is. I think what I would say is I would expect stuff like the Bismarck and the Tirpitz and vehicles like that before they add stuff like the Swedish tech tree. I think that's way more likely to pop up and be around the place. So yeah, hopefully we see that stuff. No, I mean, it's quite important to bring all those different things in. I would hope for me that, you know, I'm not really hugely into the larger ships. So if they decided to like add a bunch of like destroyers for these nations, of course I would prefer that. But, you know, what I prefer and what is going to happen is two very different things, as usual. Then we have Just Fly. I have German, American, and Russian trees all unlocked except naval and helis. And I just started with the Israeli tree. The problem is you begin with 5-0 and 0 crew skill. Yes, very true. And no lineup. Very true. For rare, I just get the premium and lock it all. So I agree on putting them in another tech tree. What? Oh, do you mean like it shouldn't be an independent tech tree? I get you. I'm Turkish, so I want a Turkish tech tree, but there are low-tier tanks that Turkish army used, including very old tanks like the T-26, but not enough to make a dedicated tech tree logical. They should add more local high-tier ones to other tech trees like indigenous ones. We have plenty of wheeled vehicles, and they should put the M60 Sabra in the Israeli tree. So in the end, I agree with the idea, despite I want a Turkish tech tree. And that, right, okay, so that's pretty much the thing, right? Like, at the end of the day, I get why people want their own nation's tech tree, because they want to see, you know, their own vehicles and they want to see their own flag. But there's a difference between wanting and necessity and need, right? Otherwise, we would just use the same word for all of them. So for me, it would be lovely to see more Turkish vehicles. And they even did that kind of like special last year about Turkey, right? Which was kind of cool, like to sell the premiums. And maybe in the future we do get a Turkish tech tree, because once again, large population base, also does have quite a lot of variety, and at the same time, just like Israel, would have a tech tree full of very copy and paste stuff, but also at the same time would at least have what's the word? Would at least have a large population density behind it, which doesn't have to rely on other nations. Should they do it? Probably not. Will they do it? There's more of a chance of that than a lot of other things. But the definite thing is that those vehicles, no matter what form they come in, will come into the game, which I think is cool, right? Modifications of stuff are fun to look at. You know, I'm kind of bored with playing a lot of them, but I took a massive break from playing specific types of vehicles for a while, like even a year. Stuff like M60s, right? But now back playing them, you know, it's not too bad. It's pretty simple in that way. So then we have MJ. Hey Tech, how are you? What's the best nation when it comes to early jets? I'm doing good. Like you know, looking forward to the Super Bowl on Sunday, and also we have a little get together tonight with the fam. So overall, that would be quite nice. Busy few weeks ahead, sorting out a few things, but nothing to really worry about. I think in general, I feel very good from everything that's kind of gone on. Physically, I feel good. I need to get a haircut, but apart from that, everything's alright. I'm feeling very large at the moment, like my shoulders and my neck and, you know, my legs. You know, I've been doing a lot of cardio and a lot of weightlifting, and it's making me feel really good. I gotta just be careful, you know, not to break myself though, since I have a tendency of that. But overall, you know, I feel very nice. Feel good. Hopefully, going forward, we can continue with that. But yeah, the best nation when it comes to early jets is America, because for some reason the F3D is under-tiered, the P80 is very good, the F80 in its own matchmaking is very good if you can get it. The only thing they really lack is like a true kind of dogfighter, and they do have the Banshee, but it's not in as good as a position as a lot of other stuff. But yeah, for me it's either America or it's Britain. I really like the early Meteors. I think they're super fun. Like the Meteor F Mark III and the Sea Jesus, both of them are just great. Like I have a really good time with them. They have a bunch of like really good 8.7 ones as well, like the Simi, the Swifts. They're different playstyles, and they may take a while to get used to, but tell you what, they're bangers. They're all bangers. They're all beautiful bangers. So for me, I would probably go for good old Britain. Even though America's like the safe choice. The F3D is definitely under-tiered. Does it still get an air spawn, by the way, in air realistic? It got an air spawn for the longest time for some reason. But yeah, the British and the American ones are definitely the ones that I vibe with, but for different reasons. You know, there's a reason why the American tech tree seems to be the most played at jets, and it's just because it has the highest upsides and the highest downsides as well. So isn't too hard to get sorted. Then we have Anonymous Raider. Hey Tech, what do you think of the Leopard 2A6M? Can be for Britain either as a sub-tech or event. I think it would really help its top tier. Well, they basically already did that. Like with the Challenger, right? The Challenger 3P. Like it's got the big gun, it's got the big donkey, it's got the big engine. Like it's got the thermals. It's basically the same thing, isn't it? Apart from, does it have a spore liner? I don't even know. So yeah, sure. I mean, any nation would benefit from having a Leopard, because a Leopard is very much in War Thunder kind of the bang average you know, NATO MBT, and that means it's pretty easy to play. You know, there's no real issues with it. It's super simple to sort itself out, which is nice. So yeah, I don't know where it would get a 2A6M from though. Would that be like a Canadian thing maybe? I don't know, but sure, like everybody gets leopards, you know. They are exported pretty much everywhere, so why not? But I think the British tree in general, you know, it has quite a lot of nice vehicles in it, and even at the high tiers, I know a lot of people like go after the challenges. I've never really felt like that. I've always kind of enjoyed the challenges personally. Yeah, they do get a bad rep. Copy paste game, copy paste real life. Unfortunately, like one of the craziest things to look at in life is the spider diagram of leopard vehicles, and how many Leopard 2 variants there are and who uses them. It is absolutely nuts. I don't think the spider diagram has even been updated in a few years, and there's just a bunch of stuff which is around. It's kind of crazy. It's just keeping it. Copy paste live? Well, yeah, I think have a look at how many countries operate Leopard 2s. Just as like a thing, right? Just go and have a look and see how many countries operate Leopard 2s. It's got to be at least like 50. Well, maybe not 50. 50 is quite a lot, but yeah. Let's just do a preliminary Google research. How many countries operate Leopard? So, 13 other European countries and several non-European countries. Yeah, thanks. Not very useful, is it? So, 2021, right? Let's see. Well, this isn't very useful. Basically, a lot is probably the way to put it. Like there's a lot. 20 countries operate the Leo 2. I thought it would be more than that. But yeah, 20 countries is still a metric ton, right? Thank you for the subscription, Rejected Tanker. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. So yeah, it's just when you put it into perspective and you look at it compared to other countries, right? It's crazy. It's like, and you think about War Thunder. War Thunder only has 10 you know, tech trees in it technically. So if you average that out, and let's say it's just 20 countries, that's 2 Leopard 2 variants per tech tree at least, without like anything else to even look at, right? So it's just nuts to think about. Thank you for the raid, Hexacube. Hopefully you had a good stream. Hopefully everything went well. So yeah, it's just it's nuts. Even just one specific place, you know, that operates all that stuff. Hey Fezumlix, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Yeah. The next one, interfering insect. I'd KMS if they added bridge layers. I mean, fair enough. It was quite extreme, you know. We figured out Apex is more casual fun than Valorant. I'd probably agree with that. Like in general, I wouldn't find either of them that fun, but out of the two, yeah, that's definitely more casual, which is nice. It'd be cool if games like that had a PvE, because for me, I'm just not good enough to enjoy it as much, you know, compared to other people. But yeah, bridge layers wouldn't make any sense, but maybe they could add like they could add some kind of interesting what you call it, like some kind of PvE mode where you have to defend the bridge layers, or you have to like set up the bridge layers. Stuff like that's always interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's something that would actually happen, so nothing to really worry about there in terms of everything. I don't think it's something that will happen. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get bombed here, even though I've taken out 2 aircraft. The third one's going to get me. Oh, I can't even cap this either. Oh, never mind, we capped it. There we go. Only movement intensive PvE shooter I can think of is Warframe. Yeah, that's true. Warframe is very fun though. I do enjoy that one quite a lot. Then we have Kabzabrowski or Browski. TS doesn't track only people who self-report. Tracks anyone you search, and someone should set up a tracker that keeps updating everyone's profiles. It's the only tool we have to check data, since Gaijin doesn't want the community seeing that artificially messing with stats. Okay. The point with extrapolating data from 2 versus 50 points is well obvious. That's how science works. You try to get conclusions out of available data, doesn't mean it's all set in stone. You're literally giving a scenario in which they're holding information. Do the best you can do with the available data. No. What you can actually do is, what you do in science is where you turn around and go, we don't have enough data and we don't know. It's okay to say that as a scientist. Like it's okay to turn around and go, we haven't got enough research, we haven't done enough digging, we don't know. And that's been my point from the start. If you have 0.5% or 1% or 2% or 5% of something or 10% of something, if you're using it, right? If you're using it to extrapolate from, you are going to have a ton of errors, right? Especially when you don't know who's in the sample size, or you just don't know who's even involved. You don't even know any of the people behind it, right? Like, that's the problem. Thunderskill also doesn't even track certain countries, I would like to remind people, and hasn't been updated in like 4 or 5 years. But yeah, it doesn't even have, like, I don't think it even tracks helicopters properly. And the average win rate on the site is above 50%. It's like 52%. That makes no sense. It can't. If we want to use like the whole extrapolation thing, right? Like just that stat there doesn't make any sense for the game. In order for a game to have that, you would have to have insane levels of screwed up matchmaking, which, as many will, talk about, just doesn't exist in this game to that level. Like, you would have to be nuts. But yeah, the issue with it is, once again, it's okay to say you don't know. And the problem I have is people go, okay, well, this is the only available thing we have, so we have to use it. No, you don't. That's like saying, okay, like, imagine back in the day, like 500 years ago. Well, we don't have anything that we can use to, like, work out any of this stuff apart from, like, the Bible. So we're just going to say the Bible is right. That's how people like Galileo get locked up, because they're crazy, deviants and weird stuff like that. It's no good. Like that's not how you do science. I feel like, at least for me, I'm right now, like, to this, I have like 2 degrees in this shit, and I've had to do all scientific theory. I've had to do all the stupid classes. I have a job which involves all of this stuff too, right? Literal experimentation and having like a results-based thing. Like, that's what I do when it comes to work stuff, right? And I despise the fact that people use this as anything more than a waste a waste of brain power. Like, it's crazy to me. It really is. And it never will stop being crazy to me. Ever, I don't think. Because it as I said, it just has so many holes in it. The average win rate on Thunderskill right now is 53.79%. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. Total average number of battles is 4,653. Right? So that's how many battles that is actually taken into account. The average number of battles is 4,653. Just to give you an idea, right now in the game, right now in the game, there are 3,914 battles happening this second. So what you are getting from that data source, right, of Thunderskill, of 4,653 battles, which this is based on, the averages that's based on, that's equivalent to about 15 minutes worth of data. In one day. If you're looking at an individual, right? Isn't that crazy? Like, isn't that nuts? But yeah. So yeah, extrapolating on bad data is still extrapolating on bad data. And you will fall into big holes constantly while doing it. By doing it, you are not going to end up in a positive situation. You are only going to end up in a bad situation, which is why the only time that these things are brought up is when people want to push specific narratives and not to actually have good discussions about these things, you know? Because everybody else just discards it, which they should do. Like, simple as that, you know? Like, I don't know, I'm bored of discussing Thunderskill. You know, we've talked about it for years. We've gone through its issues, we've gone through its problems, you know, literally step by step over the years. Why it's a terrible thing to use and how easy it is to manipulate. And just because it's the only thing that's available doesn't mean it should be used. It's a really bad idea. How does TS even collect the data? Do we know? Basically, you have to go to your individual profile or go to anybody else's individual profile and update the stats, which it pulls from the available kind of like web stuff. So like, you know, when you go into like the War Thunder website and you type in searching players and then it pulls up all the stats about you or whoever you're looking at, that's basically what it pulls and sticks it in what's gone on, right? It just does it more on an individual basis. But yeah, as I said, the site itself hasn't been updated in years. It's basically abandonware at this point. But people still use it because, once again, like, it's something to talk about instead of, like, it's just, it's a problem in society in general, at least from what I've seen. It's okay to say I don't know about something. Like, it's fine. It really is okay. We don't need to extrapolate on crap, you know? You just don't. You can just say, we don't know. This is what I feel is happening, this is what I see, but I don't know. And that's alright. It's okay to say that. You don't need stuff to back you up, because the moment you start using stuff to back you up, that's when people start looking like idiots. Because the stuff that you can use to back up is crap. You know? So then we have Manuel Guedes. Hey Tech, I want to discuss your favorite subject, landmines. Let's see. Just kidding. It's your second favorite subject, one Death Leavers. Well. This week, you made a very interesting video about the causes of this problem. One of them is the players only wanting to play the same vehicle to spade it. Although I've been only playing War Thunder for 1 year, I recognize the pattern about this issue. Usually happens when a new vehicle is introduced, either tech tree event or premium. I've seen it with the Vidar, several M109s, and the TOG2, the Return of the Mouse. We're about to see it again with the 292. The problem this causes is that as those players are stacked in the same team according to the nation grouping, the teams are balanced in terms of respawns. My proposal to address this issue is that each player would have a classification depending on the respawns in the last 20 games. Then the matchmaker would distribute the players for each team trying to balance according to this respawn classification. I'd like to know your opinion about it. By the way, unlike Freeman, I don't think you can be replaced by Chinese tech. Well, Chinese tech needs to learn English, buddy. You know. Really no huge sampling bias in this method? Yeah, crazy, right? Like for me, so my stats, I haven't updated my stats, I think, in like 6 or 7 years. And I don't know a single person who plays the game regularly who updates their stats for this, right? Or any of that. So, yeah, one of the large issues, as you said, is during these events where, you know, people don't maybe have lineups, but they unlock the vehicle, right? And they want to play the vehicle in order to kind of have fun with it. It is an issue that, you know, this kind of causes. And I do think that one of the ways to fix it, as you said, would actually be splitting them on either side. This actually has happened in the past, but I don't believe for that reason. So during the IS-7 event, one of the things they did is they made USSR versus USSR because everybody and their mother was using the IS-7 after the event because it was extremely broken. Same with the 279. I believe they had to make the matchmaker Soviet versus Soviet. They've actually done it quite a lot during certain times. Basically during times of these events, or even just like an air, right? Like an air realistic, it's always America versus America at pretty much every tier, in jets at least. So this idea has been around for a while. So yeah, maybe they could do it during these times. I do remember there was one update where they only added a few vehicles for a certain nation, and it just completely busted the matchmaker. This used to happen a lot back in the day. You know, once again, we talked about it like flavor of the month stuff. So yeah, I think that might actually be a pretty decent idea. Like if you have people who are queuing up with like one specific vehicle and only one specific vehicle, you know, in their lineup, maybe you put them into this kind of, you know, setup where they are on each of the teams. It's, once again, we've had some brilliant ideas this time. It's amazing when you don't focus on random tech trees. You can actually have some pretty decent things. Hell of a good idea, you know? That's three already. I don't think we've ever had a tech talk with three pretty insanely good ideas. Then we have Ducas Octavius the 8th. So there's going to be a Latent tech tree, yes or no? I don't have 3 hours, bro. It's a fan-made tech tree. And the whole point of this is it's a podcast where we go through all the comments. There's timestamps if people want to use them. You know, thankfully done by Kawam-chan. And also at the same time, you know, it's the whole idea of it is it's a podcast. You know, if I'm not interested in making an individual video on the tech tree itself, because as I said, I just don't think it's worth it. Sweet dreams, Ivasma. Have a nice rest. Like, it isn't really worth my time, especially since already it's kind of disappeared. One of the things that really should tell you about it is the fact that in the first day it got 10,000 upvotes, and then after that it pretty much got nothing. That should tell you something about how much people care about stuff like that. Flash in the pan is the great thing. So hopefully this year, you know, we can get some of those vehicles and we can have a bit of fun. Otherwise I'm sure we'll see the same thing next year as well. But who knows? You know? I wonder... I feel like this stuff will probably only change once some of the vehicles get added. Yeah, I try and do different, types of content on the channel. Obviously the stream stuff is more kind of discussion and chat about things. Podcast is a podcast, just going through your guys' comments, and then you got the general videos for like news and discussion stuff. So I try and do a bit of everything, at least for the stuff that I enjoy. But, it's not gonna work for everything. Then we have House of Schmidt. Do you think Gaijin will give ARIB EC another try, at least for the upper tiers? Aviation has drastically changed since 2017, and those SAMs that were added in the files also made me a little sus that they're working on something. Yeah, they will. Do you think a Commonwealth subtree for Britain could work, or do you think they should just spread them out, not in any particular line? I just stick them in the tree, Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me how they put them in the tree. Just put them in the tree. I think that would work the best. So when it comes to the ARIB, I'm sure that they'll add it back in. Like the fact that this weekend we have the Guardian Angel event, which I honestly thought we would never see again. Like the Guardian Angel event is one of those which really was pretty poor, but they've removed the 262s from it, so maybe now people will actually be able to have fun with it. Because back in the day, you'd just have the 262s just kind of railing everything. And then, the American side would still win, but it wasn't really fun playing them because you just had to kind of survive. Whereas the Germans, you would come in and like, just kind of batter everything. So yeah, I think in general, they will bring back pretty much everything. They're already, EC is already a thing. RBEC is already a thing at the top tiers of the game. Like, it's as simple as that. You already have the maps. Like, how do you think? Let's say they add in EC to air. What changes? Because you already have the EC maps. So you're adding in respawns, right? You're adding in respawns, and you're adding more airfields, and you're adding a longer time. You're also adding objectives which kind of spawn in and out, which we already have, right? So how does that actually change how top tier air functions? Because you'll still have that initial hit, you'll still have whoever wins, and then the people who win, they'll just sit near your airfields until they run out of until they run out of fuel, and then they'll go back to base, or they'll J out and spawn in again. And then you'll have people around the side trying to do damage and different stuff. So I don't know how that would change. Maybe, I mean, I might just be dim, like there are some issues that for me I feel like I'm not as learned about, but I don't know. I don't think that would fix those issues personally. But yeah, they'll bring it back. They'll move it around. There's no reason why they shouldn't bring back old stuff, right? They've already made it, in the game, so not at least bringing it back every so often just feels a bit weird. Because the idea of a lot of these like companies is you build something, right? And once you built the foundation of it, and once it all works, you test it in the closed and then open stuff. And then the idea is you add on bricks, brick on brick on brick. And then from there, what you do is you just, take it away every once in a while and then bring it back to hype people up, maybe add a few things to it, right? So like, for example, tank football. They brought back like tank football like 3 or 4 times. It's super fun, it's a really fun game mode. And they add like a few decorations, they add a few like little things to it every time. And it's still busted as all hell. Like it still doesn't really work very well because of the desync mainly. But it's a super fun game mode. And, every time, as long as they keep adding stuff to grind, I'm sure people will enjoy it. Same with like Tailspin. They brought Tailspin back. we'll probably see the Battle of Arrakis come back in the future, because that's one that they did. Same with like Atomic Heart, right? Greetings, Ephialtis, nice to see you. So these types of things will happen. You know, they will move about the place. It's just given, you know, if development time has gone into it, then they'll do it. I mean, they're still trying to desperately make people interested and also make World War mode work, right? Because that was going to be like a flagship thing. That was going to be something that they really wanted to sort out, and it just never really did what it was supposed to do, and didn't happen the way that they wanted. So yeah. It's just kind of how it is. If you've already developed something, to bring it back and also, you know, to have people actually, you know, play it and stuff, it really doesn't cost that much. So why not? Like, at the end of the day. So yeah, I think there will be. I'm sure we'll see World War mode this year, because they already talked about, you know, bringing it back. I'm sure we'll see a bunch of other things too at the same time. So yeah, I'm sure we'll see RRBEC in the next few years as well. It's been a long enough time, you know. Then we have Myroslan. Have you played COD World War II? If so, do you think it would be possible / desirable to implement the lobby system that game had? I think that with the coming updates to the profile, this could be integrated, along with your idea of visiting each other's hangar. It would look something like a large military base, with one big hangar, with the currently selected planes of the people in the lobby, with their tanks and ships parked outside. The biggest issue with stuff like that is once people die in War Thunder, they just leave the game. So the whole idea of the lobby system is after you finish a game, it kind of loads you up for another game, right, with the same people. Well, in War Thunder, people just leave because they want to go play other stuff, right, because it's more of a kind of solo game. And also, you know, because there's so many varying ways that you can kind of die, and also the BRs that are around, I think that type of system would be very hard to do. Just because of, you know, how it's all set up. I think you could add all of the other systems already without that type of lobby system, because think about the amount of waiting around that somebody would do in order to get into a match, or in order to kind of go and do stuff. You want people to be in action as quick as possible, which is why a lot of games have gone away from like that kind of COD lobby system. And also, at the same time, I feel like you would, because I don't, maybe this is just like a me thing, but I'm one of those people who I will play like the same vehicle all day just to spade it, right? But at the same time, if I'm focusing on battle passes or everybody else that I know, they don't usually just play the same thing all day. So since they're moving around a lot in BRs, you can't really stay in the same lobby if you are moving around, you know, all that time. So yeah, I feel like it could obviously work, like as a thing. I just think the spread of it is too much. Maybe in a specific mode you could get it to work, like some kind of competitive mode or whatever, but not in general matchmaking. There's just too many. It's too easy just to like leave a game and go to the next one, and also just change lineup, right? Which is what kind of happens all the time anyway. Right, let's. All of these are pretty useless to me. Kind of sad. Right, let's see this. So we have Elverman. Hi Tech. Hi. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, doing good. Did you know that the M109 has special ammo that's not in game? It's called the Remote Anti-Armor Mine System. Could be used to deploy 9 anti-tank mines anywhere on the map with a single shot. Imagine playing Advanced to the Rhine and capping B and C while farming kills from that popular alley near A using howitzer-deployed anti-tank mines. Imagine at the start of a battle, like, you know how people would like the Sturm Tiger where they've, people worked out like the distances between these things. imagine if imagine if people figured out the distances to fire those, and then you just turn up at the part of the map and you just randomly explode from these things. Oh dear, what a crazy time. Is it normal that my ping in ground is double compared to air? Your ping should be the same in either game mode. I don't think it really should change, which seems a little bit odd. So yeah, I don't know. Like, it seems obviously that would be a terrible idea. But the way my brain works is simple. Like, I think I know what I think would work. I think I know what wouldn't in general. But you know what? Like, at the end of the day, what I feel like we should do is just let anything happen. Like, put it like this. I get to a point when it comes to a lot of these topics where my brain just goes, just do it. Just do it for a week, right? Just do it for a week. And then just see how many people get annoyed. And just do it for a week. Just let people suffer to understand why these things are bad. Sometimes that's where my brain goes eventually. After like discussing these ideas for the longest time, my brain just goes, you know what? Since these people are asking for it, let's give it to them. And let's see how it goes. And then what you do is afterwards, after all that stuff's gone on, and after everybody turns around and goes, who the hell decided that this was a good idea? This is trash. You go, it was them. And I know that's a bit rude. And I know that's obviously not a nice thing to do. But that's where my brain goes. Because having to like deal with stuff like that for like the longest time, Hey 996, nice to see you. Oh, that's cool. Happy holidays. Are you doing anything, or are you just kind of chilling? Wargaming has always done this thing of adding gimmicks to things, and generally they're shit, but they always double down and do gymnastics to make it work. Yeah. It is kind of odd. Well, that sucks, Bella. Hopefully you can improve it. So we have Petrovich Marco. I'm getting closer and closer to top tier ground Germany, and I noticed there are no 10-7 and 11-0s vehicles in the standard German tech tree. Looking around a bit, I see those BRs being pretty scarce in most tech trees. Why do you think this is, and do you think there is an easy fix? The reason this happens is because of something I've talked about for many years, which is the fact that as you decompress BRs, you create black holes in areas. We just talked about 10-0 for aviation. 10-0 is a black hole BR. And the reason this happens is because you decompress the BRs so much, there are now vehicles which are between BRs, which don't really fit in either BR setups. So now they're just kind of left to not really do much. Like they are either get fully up-tiered and annihilated, or they get down-tiered and do really well. And they just can't play at their tier because their tier doesn't exist, right? This is now happening in ground because of the decompressions. You have specific areas where vehicles are in those little areas, and since they are in those kind of black hole BRs where you're either, depending on the meta, you either do really well or do really poorly, or you just get, annihilated, or everything feels good. Those vehicles either get played a lot and do well, so then they go up in BR, or what happens is they don't get played at all, and they stay at that BR, but everything else around them gets played, so those things move around. So then you have specific BRs which just don't have a lot of stuff in them, because they are the ones which usually get twatted by the meta BRs from about 6 months to 12 months ago, and people just don't want to play it. So for example, when it comes to 10-7 and 11-0, guess what the top BR used to be? 11-7 and 12-0. So now, if you're in an 11-7 max BR, do you want to play against the 10? Like, if you're in a 10-7, do you want to play against 11-7? Hell no, because they're the top BR vehicles. You'll get absolutely blasted. And then, if you have a look at 11-0, it's exactly the same thing once 12-0 comes around. So these vehicles don't get played for like a year, 2 years, 3 years. There's hardly any statistics on them, and it creates a black hole. So then when you're trying to grind through them, you go, what the hell? Like, what do I do here? I only have like maybe one vehicle which is here. How do I create lineups? How does this go? And this is the thing I've been talking about for years, literally 8 years. And we finally got to a point where it's happening and people are noticing it's happening. And it's very good that we're finally noticing that this thing's happening. But I would like to go back 8 years so we could actually talk about it then and actually try and preempt these things happening instead of just having these weird BRs where just nothing goes on. Because what happens is once that BR range becomes stagnant and nothing happens, like the 10.0 for air, then if you decompress a lot more, what happens is 10.0 becomes 10.3. Because those two BRs are now stagnant and there's nothing there. So now you have half a BR bracket which just doesn't do anything. It can't get into games, nobody plays it, and you never see it. And then that becomes 3 BR brackets. And then it becomes a whole BR bracket, and that's when you have a real issue. Because if you create a whole BR bracket that nobody plays, now whenever a player gets up to that area in the matchmaking, they won't be able to play against anything. And they'll only get either fully up-tiered or fully down-tiered. And then the players who play slightly below that will only get down-tiered. So they'll play a lot there, but they won't play anything above it because they'll just get massacred by the guys above them. You know? It's a mess. So it's one of those things you got to really be careful of, which is why, you know, whenever they've done BR decompression, Gaijin have talked about this problem where, you know, when they've talked about, like, they have to add vehicles before they can decompress BRs, and there's just a ton of people every time who's like, that doesn't make any sense. This is why. Exactly that. That's why. Right? And we're seeing it in real time happen now. And there isn't a fix because the vehicles, there isn't the vehicles to put in. Right? They just don't exist in that BR range. So it's interesting, isn't it? So it's nice to look at that stuff and it's nice to see what's, you know, kind of going on with it. But also, it's just one of those that's just going to continue. And the only way to fix it is by adding vehicles which are slightly, you know, in the middle of those things. Whether they do that or not, we'll have to see, but it's at least interesting to think about. And it's nice. I'm just very happy after many years of, like, once again talking about these things and just getting told that I was an idiot when it came to these things and I didn't know what I was talking about and this wouldn't happen and that wouldn't happen. It's happening. So now you're just going to have dead areas when it comes to BRs. Maybe it's better to have dead areas, you know, because then, you know, you don't have people just struggling to actually do well because they get up-tiered so much. Who knows? We'd never got onto the conversation of what the next step is, you know, but maybe one day. The easy fix, as I said, is to add the vehicles or add vehicles in that BR range which fit that BR range. Like that's the way to do it. Like and you flesh them out slowly but surely with newer vehicles, so then eventually what will happen is people will grind them at a decent click and then you'll have a natural flow up to the higher echelons of the tech tree. That's what they have to do. And, you know, that's what they're gonna do. But there are certain BRs, because of, you know, history and technology, I don't know how they actually fix that. They're trying to fix the 10.0, 10.3 stuff with these weird strike aircraft. So, let's see how it goes, I suppose. And we have Euro Scott. I'm actually the reason that vehicle goes down in BR. God damn. You have insane power, Euro Scott. You got to be careful with that. Yield it properly, otherwise things may go wrong. Do not push the sword the wrong way. Then we have Phil. Hey Tech, how you doing? Doing good, you know, everything's going well. I actually made some pretty cool food the other night. So made a ton of potato and then pan-fried a bunch of bacon, onions, and garlic and stuff like that. Combine the two to kind of make like these potato patties, and then pan-fried them with a little bit of butter to eat. Probably super unhealthy, but it tasted great, and yeah, it was really nice. Gonna be got an English cookbook, kind of a pastry or a dessert book that we're gonna go through, which will be fun. And so looking forward to that. Probably put on a few pounds, but nah, everything feels good. Sleep's going well. Setting up the videos is going well. Everything feels good, and I'm very happy with life right now. Looking forward to sorting things out. What do you think about a technical tech tree? I think it would be fun. I think technicals in general would be fun. Probably not an individual tech tree, but you know, an actual set of technicals somewhere. Yeah. I mean, we're kind of seeing them already, right? Like with the AAs that they're putting in. Like a lot of the mid-tier AAs are just straight up like technicals. So, but yeah, if they want to add more, I'm all down. Like stuff like that is always something to look forward to. You know, that the Toyota trucks, you know, I honestly do feel that's going to be, you know, it's going to be something that it'll be nice for them to add, and you know, I'm sure a lot of people like them, but it's one of those kind of like the Stug 4 where it makes sense to put it into the game, and I think we're at that point now, right? So Japan could use them to flush out BRs? Yeah, they could. Like, that would be alright. Yeah, technicals used for AA or used for other stuff like that. Very much down. All good. So then we have Genovmi. Right here. What would be your suggestion on how to stay sane in regards to CAS helicopters to a pure tank player? The simple issue with that statement is the pure tank player part. I know you've put in like an idea of, you know, why you don't like playing planes or you suck at playing planes, so you prefer, you know, to play ground. But at the end of the day, this is like studying for 50% of the material on a test and going, there's a bunch of stuff in that test I didn't know anything about. We should change the test. But no, you're artificially limiting yourself, right? Like that's the thing. Everybody in War Thunder starts off bad, you know, at pretty much every part of the game. It's a game which has a lot of learning to it and has a lot of things that you have to kind of sit down and try and think about and how to sort out properly. But with stuff like CAS, it's such an integral part of the game, especially for ground and way more for naval, that it's something you really have to make sure to at least have, you know, a modicum of stuff sorted out. Even, you know, even when it comes to like learning how to drop bombs or learning how to use guns, and also just general like arcs of where people kind of attack from. That one's generally very important too. So yeah, it's the idea of a pure tank player is something that War Thunder could never have and never be successful at, because that's not how the game's really designed, right? So for me, I would say you need to have a think about, you know, you need to have a think about the fact that there are solutions there, but you're choosing not to take them because you feel like you suck at them. Well, that's okay. We all suck at things, but sometimes you just gotta try and make it be a bit better. That's all. Like, you can do it. We all did it, you know? We've all done it. And I wouldn't use it as a limiting factor on why something can't be done. Things can improve, things will be, you know, better. There's plenty of tutorials nowadays on how to like set all these things up. What I would actually recommend to do is if you're not very confident in the CAS part, don't play CAS. Just play an superiority fighter, you know, at lower tiers, and then kind of gradually work your way up with different superiority fighters and just become an anti-CAS through there. You know, if you get annoyed at, you know, CAS coming out, know where they spawn, know where the helicopter pads are, listen for them as you move around. You know, attack them in those ways, and you'll be able to do quite a lot. It's actually pretty crazy, you know, how effective anti-CAS can be once you give it a go. I'm really kind of bored of this guy just shooting me with HE. He's been doing it since the start of the map. I'm pretty sure it's a bot. There we go. Like, I can't even tell which one it is, but it's probably the Atlanta. Is it the Atlanta? Kind of looks dodgy, but probably not. Probably just the dude grinding through the tree. Right, then we have OCS. Hi TEC, about one death leaving and other such behavior. We call it fatherless behavior around here. I typically stay to the end of a match because I have seen games turn around and be won against almost impossible odds. But I feel like a lot of players want negative reinforcement of bad behavior when we should be focusing on positive reinforcement. So for example, at the beginning of a game, you're given multiple random challenges for random vehicles in your lineup. So if you're top tier Germany, you get 3 challenges such as kill 2 enemies with the 2A7 and help an allied repair in the Leopard 2A6, then get 2 assists in the 2A5 and have a reward multiplier for each one you complete. What do you think? Sorry for the long response. You don't have to apologize, it's fine. As long as it's not like 50 paragraphs, like generally it's okay. Yeah, I think that's kind of a cool idea. Yeah, the idea of giving like mini objectives for people to complete, to try and, you know, entice them to do different stuff. Yeah, I'm down for that. That would be kind of cool. As long as they're not like, as long as they don't change the way that you try and push forward your gameplay, right? And as long as it's just some kind of addition to what already exists, yeah, I think I'd be fine with that. Like, you know, get some kills with this, or get a repair with this, destroy an aircraft with this, stuff like that. Mini objectives is always good. Talking about objectives, one of the games that we played yesterday was actually called Control, and I didn't finish it. We'll do another play session and finish it. And Control, you can definitely tell when it was made, because it's a really fun game. You know, the gameplay flow is really good. If you like those kind of games where, you know, you go to an area, you destroy everything, a little bit of puzzle solving, a lot of like mobility mechanics and, you know, moving stuff around, you'll have a blast in the game. It was super fun while playing it, and the graphics are really nice too. But the interesting thing about the game is there's a lot of additional random content. And I know that sounds weird, right? Because, you know, usually people want their money's worth, and usually people want, you know, more stuff in that way. Like, if you see this like kind of random content around, oh, that's good, you know, because that means that I get more worthwhile stuff, which is about the place. But the problem with Control, since it's a single player game, and it's very much like set up as a single player game, it has all of this additional random kind of busy stuff which none of it makes really any sense what you're trying to do, apart from they're trying to make the game experience longer through like bonuses. It's something I noticed in Wolfenstein Young Blood as well when I went through that with JW. Like basically you have a game where they add in all of these like random objectives and random things that happen to give you like power-ups to make the game easier. But also at the same time, they just all go to this place, capture this, kill this, you know, move this around. There's not really a lot of kind of interest or, you know, crazy stuff to it. It's just very, very basic stuff. But people feel like it's good because of the fact that it's just a bunch of, you know, additional content, even though it's recycling older areas and forcing you to go to those areas to move around. So for me, like, you do have to be a bit careful of that in some games, right? Like in a game like War Thunder, I don't think it's too bad because it's a game which is very based around like missions and getting that stuff sorted. But you can go overboard, and like Control and Wolfenstein are two very good examples of that, where it's just two games which just tried to add in just a ton of like, I suppose you'd class them as like live service elements to a single player game, which was, you know, very odd. But no, I think that would be a good idea. Mini objectives just to keep people playing. Youngblood, I thought from a gameplay point of view was fine. It's just the story is awful, and as I said, they added in all of this like, hey, you should come back every day to do like these daily missions so you can get, you know, new power-ups. No, I don't think I will, because what am I going to do? I'm going to run through the game again with them? Like, what? Why? You know, sometimes you don't need additional stuff. You know the best additional stuff to any game that I've ever played? So, funnily enough, Homefront. You know the game Homefront? We played through them last year, right? The first one, Homefront, is just like a standard single-player game. It's pretty good, you know, North Korea invades the US, quite funny. And, you know, has like an interesting alternate timeline and a simple single-player. Homefront the Revolution is a pretty good game, but it follows the whole Ubisoft model. So go to the area, capture the safe house, capture this point to be able to see what's around there. That opens up other objectives. Complete those objectives, and then maybe you'll be able to do the main mission, right? Tons of side quests, and also every area you go to, it's kind of the same thing, right? Now, that game actually felt really fun to play, but also the same thing, where it was just, we've had so many games like this now, and around the time, you know, if it had actually come out when it should have, it would have actually been very good. But the thing is, it came out too late, and after a lot of those like games came out which had all those features, and it was just a bunch of like bloat to the game, which, you know, the game itself was good, but because of just additional stuff that they were trying to kind of justify a price tag, they were trying to kind of say to people, okay, this is why you want to like play the game, it just became pretty dull and monotonous. But if you could just do like the main missions, it would be good, but they just decided not to. Weird. Then we had Maxwell. Hello TEC, I was doing the timestamps to after the vid came out because I saw Karam didn't do them. Around the 2 hour mark I accidentally refreshed the tab and lost all progress and saw Karam had finished already. Here's a question. You said that you didn't like the super long questions, but what about a lot of them? Is there a limit on how many questions one can send in one tech talk? We'll put it like this. I'm not going to die anytime soon. You're not going to die anytime soon, probably. So the thing is, you gotta think about longevity, right? If you just toss everything at my face, like within like 2 seconds, I'm gonna be overwhelmed. There's just gonna be stuff all over the place, right? And that's not gonna be very good. So if you're seeing it from like, you know, you want general stuff chat about or general questions and things, I mean, as long as they're short, like we could do like maybe 2 or 3 at a time, but still, like, just remember this is a weekly thing. So if we don't get through Like, if there is one that is missed, or if you feel like you have like one or two to go through, just stick one in the next week and we'll go through it, right? These ones are getting longer and longer and longer because of the fact that there's more and more comments and more ideas and more things going on. So, you know, hopefully we can continue the way that we're doing them, and I think we can. And yeah, so it would be nice to limit it to maybe one or two questions, and then if there's another one, or, you know, discussion points, but if there's another one, just do it next week, you know? The world is not going to end in a week. We're watching some videos from the 60s and 70s about what kind of children thought was going to go on in 2000, and it was quite interesting to see how, you know, they're all talking about climate change and how the Earth's just not going to exist anymore. Robots are going to take over, of course. Humans will be bored because they will have nothing to do because no one will have jobs. That was something. It's kind of interesting to see how a lot of those ideas are the same ones that people talk about today. Crazy. Right. Yeah, that's another mod for this. And the Regolo is spaded again. Yeah, good. Doesn't say it's spaded, but it is. Right. Then we have Yuho Oof Bridge Layer events. A race through a series of islands with your team. Let's see how War Thunder players do teamwork. Oh, that... I don't know how many of you have been to like team building exercises. Are they even like a thing anymore? I don't even know if they're a thing. But basically, you used to go to these like retreats as like a group of people, like as a company, and you would like learn how to do stuff together. And one of the things that they used to do a lot is you would get boxes, and each person had a box, but only like that person could move their box, and you had to get across like a certain distance. So you had to basically make it so people had to stand on other people's boxes while also moving their own, and then, you know, you could kind of create a bridge, and then you'd have one person who would go past everybody, and then they'll go there, and then so on and so forth, right? So the whole idea of it was you had to work together to be able to create the bridge. And I thought that was kind of cool. I thought generally it was actually a really cool idea. So, yeah, let's do that, but in War Thunder. Like, you know, let's get a bunch of cheese wedges together and try and make a bridge. I tried to do that actually. Like, well, we tried to do it. Was it last year or the year before? It just didn't work because the vehicles would get stuck on things. The last company I worked at did an annual team building event, like you described. Yeah. The last one I did was a few years ago now. The guys that I work with are the same guys I worked with for a long time, so yeah. So it would be kind of weird going on something like that. And we have Jerry. Is there anything that lots of people ask to be added to War Thunder that really shouldn't be, other than the obvious stuff like historical matchmaking? Random ass countries, you know. Like, well, and also just remember, perception is different from reality. The vast majority of people are not involved in War Thunder. War Thunder, but also in online discussions about War Thunder. Vast majority of people, maybe they like watch maybe a video or see like a piece of news once every so often. Like it's not as many people who are like heightened about these things. But yeah, for me the big one is just random X tech tree number 5. And hey, wouldn't it be cool to see these vehicles and how they're added? You know, that is something that always gets brought up, and luckily for a few years it disappeared. But then Israel was added, and then all those people came out of the woodwork again. And then people who don't really think too much and just kind of go along with, oh, isn't that a cool vehicle? And then, you know, that kind of permeates and goes around. But I wouldn't say there's anything that that I would say is like a big held belief that should be kind of destroyed or anything. I mean, for the longest time, like the repair cost stuff was really annoying. Not from the fact that people were, not from the fact that it was too expensive or whatever, but just the one of the things the repair cost stuff taught me, since it went on for what, like 10 years being an issue for a lot of people, is just the general person in War Thunder does not understand how the mechanics of War Thunder actually work. And even if you explain to them how certain mechanics work, especially when it comes to research, when SL or anything like that, they will just turn around and go, yeah, but that slightly inconveniences me, or yeah, but that's not how I think it works, right? And that's just something you'll see everywhere in life. It's just an ignorance on how stuff works, because for them they've either been told how something works or they think it works like this, so they just focus on that, and it's just annoying. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's anything that is like a massive idea that's permeated that everybody believes in, because as we've said many times, that you can't get consensus like that. Like, it just doesn't work. Then we have John S. Patton. I want the B-29 to have a 20mm tail gun. I mean, fair enough. I kind of like a Scorpion with a plasma cannon, personally. Let's go nuts. Something tells me we both won't get our wish. Then we have Special Donkey. Hope all is well. It is. If you was to make a game like War Thunder or any game in general, with your vast game experience of other games and the positives of each, what would you make your game about? And what mechanics would you add or not add? And what would you have experienced so far with other games? Well, I wouldn't make a PvP game. I'd make a PvE game. I would take the map design of Crusader Kings and the political system of Crusader Kings, but I would remove the kind of like birthright stuff and instead have more of like a voting system from a game like Democracy, for example. I would add in the total war mechanics, which are, the not just like the trading mechanics, but also the military mechanics. I would add the political mechanics from probably one of the Paradox games. And then I would add the kind of gameplay of those. So you have like, the map of, Crusader Kings with a lot of the subsystems that brings. You'd have the Total War kind of sieges and military side of production, also just the trade side of how that works. And then I would have battlefields, which were very similar to what you'd get in kind of old Supreme Commander games. So large, massive scale battles where you are vying for territories through this. There was actually a game that nearly did it really well, but it was just so buggy. And the game is called Kingdom Wars. Kingdom Wars 2. There's a definitive edition. And basically, if you have a look at Kingdom Wars 2, massive map, tons of different factions, and with the general idea of, okay, you don't just need to like build your militaries, you need to also build your productions on a human level, and at any point you can get attacked by other people with this. So you build your cities from the ground up in Kingdom Wars 2. I just wish that I could get that game to work properly. It just kept crashing for me so often. But it was one of those which was really interesting to do. So I'd mix the kind of city building mechanics of Kingdom Wars 2. You should have a look at that game, by the way. It's one that's really cool. And then I'd set it in the Lord of the Rings universe, because the one universe that needs an RTS game or needs a grand strategy game is Lord of the Rings. Like it just doesn't have one. It just doesn't exist. But yeah, so that's what I would do. I wouldn't have any like I wouldn't do DLCs. I would just do expansions. I would have a subscription model for the expansions, so people could get the subscription and, you know, not have to buy the DLCs. I wouldn't put any DRM in the game. I would add in, you know, modding, so anybody could mod the game the way that they wanted to. And I suppose if people wanted multiplayer, they could do too. But yeah, that's pretty much how I would, you know, sort out the thing. I don't think I would have anything else. Like, for me, a lot of the games I've been enjoying recently are just kind of like either side scroller or general puzzle games or pretty simple games. But one of the things I've missed out a lot on is having, you know, a game which is a grand strategy in a world that I'm interested in. Total War Warhammer definitely scratched that itch, but the problem I feel with Total War Warhammer is because of how the Warhammer universe is. There's a lot of things that are massively set in stone in that universe about who likes who doesn't like who you can trade with, who you can't, and also they really push the idea of, instead of, you know, focusing on the like large world and all these different factions, they tried these like mini kind of more quest campaigns, which, you know, for me, I'm not that interested in. I actually kind of prefer the Hearts of Iron stuff, where stuff kind of goes on around the time, but you kind of have and can do whatever you feel like. I think that's much more interesting, and that's how I would set it up. Like, I think that would be kind of cool, personally. The other one is actual games for sports. So a proper rugby game based on the ideas of EA Sports Rugby '08, which has, you know, a big world league, has like a big championship, has salary caps, has like, you know, progression through then, all of those different stuff. Like a FIFA game but rugby, right? That would be so cool. Hey Big Bison, nice to see you. What happened to deleting War Thunder last week? What do you mean? So yeah, that's I would like an actual proper rugby game from this last decade. So we have Away With You, viability. Hello Tech, I'm glad you liked the little meme segment. I had a question about it. When I make another such comment, should I make it shorter, leave it the same length, or make it longer? That's up to you, man. I had some other jokes about the previous concept, but I didn't want it to be too long, since the longer the joke, the worse it gets, unless the joke is the punchline, but you know what I mean. My favorite jokes is ones that you stick in over months. A lot of videos, the video on my YouTube channel, was that the one where I was reading out a post by somebody else? I probably was, right? I think I might have linked it in the actual channel, the video itself. Just remember, just because my voice is saying something doesn't mean that it's something that is from my brain. You said you deleted War Thunder yourself? Did I? Don't think I did. We're playing it right now. I'd have to look back at the video. If I remember, I don't even remember what that video was about. The first sentence you said was, I deleted War Thunder last week. Yeah, so if you go in the description of that video, I'm reading a forum post. Because one of the things I think it's important to do over the next period of time, like I've been doing it over the last year or so, is to kind of show some opinions from the community which aren't ones which get pushed. Because I think one of the most important things for me is to kind of show how varied a lot of people's opinions are, and also the way that they see stuff, right? That includes the like standard ones and also the nuts ones, you know? Hey Alex, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. See you later, Big Bison. Look after yourself, man. PS, there's a Churchill bridge layer with a functioning turret, so don't joke about Gaijin adding one in the game, since they could just add that one. That would be quite funny, yeah. And in true British fashion, it's very goofy looking, so if you want to laugh, look it up. I mean, we'll have a look. We talked about the Spigot one today. And again, there seems to be a Churchill variant of anything, so it'd be funny if Gaijin adds these sorts of logistics vehicles, but they're all Churchills. You know, Churchill with bridge, Churchill with crane, Churchill with howitzer. Anyway, hope everyone had a decent week. Cheers. You too, man. Hopefully everything went well. But yeah, the jokes that last for months for me is always fun. Like, there's like certain video types where I just stick something in the thumbnail every time, and I kind of wonder if anybody notices them. General themes, and then also just like, you know, sticking things in descriptions of videos or using certain words to describe certain things. And my mind gets bored, right? So I just like put random stuff in. So I think that's fun to do. But honestly, with the bridge layer stuff, it would be kind of funny if they ever did it somehow. I think in general it's at least something that could happen. We'll have to see in the future what the chance of it happening is. There we go. But yeah, who knows? Anything's possible. So we have Pactan. My current PC was named Satan's Whore when I built it like 8 years ago. Oh, well, fair enough. That's What about like Sarah? Seems quite aggressive, you know. Oh god. I mean, fair enough. Then we have SDIJ EPCO. And it says maybe Yugoslavia tech tree. A lot of people would like it to be added to the game. Well, as I keep saying, Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore. How about this? You reunite Yugoslavia, I'll get that tech tree into the game. That's a promise. Pinky promise. Okay? If you can reunite the states of Yugoslavia, I will personally get the Yugoslavian tech tree in the game. I will do whatever's needed. I will sort that for you. Okay? So we have Jimmy. I know this will never happen, but I think that not only there should be no additional tech trees, but that Israel and Italy should be given to France, Sweden should be given to Britain, and Japan should be given to China. Radical tech tree centrist. I like it. Sure, why not? Let's go. I'm down for that. Squidge the tech trees. No more spreading, only squidging. I'm down. But no, I honestly think, like, the way that tech trees are right now, like, there's some of them that are definitely nowhere near as good as other ones, but I think this is a good kind of leaping off point of the tech tree idea. I really hope they have a mechanic in mind which isn't just the whole boosting research thing to try and get people into other tech trees, whether it's something about like research across tech trees with different ones, kind of like they did the helicopter mechanic, or if there's like other ideas. But yeah, because it's just gonna, I think the changes that they've made have gone quite a long way to helping with the problem, but we still have the problem. Wait, what the hell is this? Why did this not pop up for me? Oh god, I need to do this tomorrow. Damn. So we have Foxhound. Hello Tech, how are you? Alive and kicking. Do you have any advice on how not to get super mad at War Thunder? I really enjoy the game, but it makes me super mad quite often as well, which is a part of the gaming, but I shouldn't really get mad every time I hop on the game. No, you shouldn't. Even if you're getting joy out of something, if it's also causing you stress, you shouldn't do it. Like, it's as simple as that, you know? Like, I feel like if you're feeling mad or if you're feeling annoyed, just, honestly, it really is just maybe work out a bit, maybe watch a TV show, maybe go for a walk, like, do something else, man. The Royval post was rude as hell today, Alex. They just added it in right at the end. But yeah, literally, if you are feeling those things, just remember, you know, it's an optional experience. So take half the time that you usually play War Thunder and commit it to something else, so then you can feel better about, you know, what's going on. It's never nice to hear that people are being affected by these things, and, you know, I think it's best just try and work on other aspects of life during the time to see what can be helped in that area. And yeah, I've seen a lot of people who have grown a lot over the years and are in much better positions nowadays because of taking like little steps back from gaming and focusing on other areas and trying to make themselves feel better. It's been a very positive thing to see. And hopefully many more do it in the future. Gaming is an addition, not a necessity. Meaning that if your necessities are out of balance or out of your control, you need to focus on them instead of other parts. Then we have Puppy of Tindalos. Love that. Hi Tech, hope you're having a good time. Yeah, doing alright. You know, we got the ground task to do, which we'll do over the next few days. We got the other thing to do. Let's see. Let's see what this is. Yeah, just doing good. You know, looking forward to the weekend. You know, playing some Humans 4 Flat with the boys. Also at the same time, Super Bowl, and then, you know, doing War Thunder stuff. We actually played a really cool game today, just to let you know. It's only a demo right now. Let's see if I can actually find it. Does anybody remember what it was called? God damn. I was literally just playing it earlier today, but I've removed it from my library, so I don't see it. It began with C. Not Men of War, no, it was Cataclysmo, thank you Alex, yeah, Cataclysmo. So the demo of it is out right now, and basically, if it's a base building game where you have to deal with demons who are attacking you. So imagine they are billions, but you actually completely craft your defenses. So, well, I remove it because, you know, I have no use for it, right? But yeah, Cataclysmo. And yeah, imagine they are billions, but you can build each independent piece of your defense. So each piece of wall, each gate, you just have complete control of all of that stuff. It is so fun. The demo has 3 missions. One's kind of a tutorial. The other 2 are more like standard base building missions. Highly recommend giving it a go. And it's also free. So, like, you know, just why not at the end of the day? Why not give it? It took like an hour, 2 hours, and, you know, it was all good. I had a good time. You mentioned that you played Dawn of War 3. Did you also play the Warhammer 40k tabletop or paint miniatures? As a huge Warhammer fan, I'd love to see a collaboration with Gaijin in some way. Maybe even as a mini event. Are there any plans for this? Keep up the good work. Thank you. Yeah, I've been interested in Warhammer for a long time, actually. And so the first time I got involved in Warhammer was from one of my childhood friends called Edward Bennett. Now, Edward Bennett, his father was a vicar, and my father was a pharmacist, and we went to school together. He used to live near one of my father's pharmacies. So after school, sometimes I would go to his house, and we would kind of chill for a few hours, play games before my dad was ready to pick me up. So I would get he had like a GameCube, so we played that like Star Wars game on the GameCube. Can't remember what it was, but it was pretty fun. We played Pikmin, and also at the same time, we used to play with his Lord of the Rings Warhammer stuff. He like made a castle. He had like some Urukai. He had some like Rohirrim, and we used to like take turns like defending, attacking, doing all these different things, and we'd kind of like make up rules as we went, and it was just a lot of fun. And so I got involved in Warhammer basically through that, which is kind of funny. And at the same time, there was like a club, I think, at school to like play it, but I didn't really get involved in that too much, just because they actually use like the proper rules of like Warhammer, and I just kind of wanted to have fun and roll dice and see what would happen. And yeah, so that was like my first look into kind of Warhammer and how it worked. And then from there, obviously, started reading about Warhammer. There was a ton of Warhammer games at the time, but, started reading the novels because, I could find them online for free, and I didn't have any money. And then, I bought some of the models. I bought like I bought a set of Rohirrim. I bought a set of elves, and I also got the Fellowship, I believe. Wait, I just knocked my thing. Right, there we go. I don't know if I actually have them with me right now. Let's just check. Because I keep them on my desk. I just don't know where they are on the desk. But most of my stuff is in England to do with that. But I do actually have I have a few of them with me for good luck. And it's a few elves and a few of the Rohirrim and the Urukai, but I think they're actually at the other place. So yeah, it's one of those things I like keep about all the time, from back when I was in England. And I did actually buy some Space Marines. I painted them up, and I do enjoy doing stuff like that. And the reason why I stopped doing that is just time. Like honestly, it is literally just time. Like the amount of time it would take me to do it, because I got these rough fat hands, and also the money involved. Like I just had way more things to focus on in the past to get right before I was at the situation I am in now. And even though right now I probably have the money to like invest into that if I want to, there's like other things I kind of want to do instead. Like and that's where the games come in, right? So in order to kind of enjoy Warhammer, I play stuff like Total War, we play Necromunda Hired Guns, stuff like Dawn of War, and that's how I kind of enjoy still being in that world. It's a hell of a lot cheaper way of doing it instead of, buying all the models and things like that. And, as maybe in the future I'll get back into that stuff, but at least at the moment I'm very happy with doing it that way. So yeah, I do enjoy War Thunder and also Warhammer together, and I feel like if there was a collaboration, it would be quite cool. There was a few skin makers back in the day that made some really, really cool kind of like Warhammer based skins. Like I remember there was one on the Leclerc I used to have and the STRV, and they just looked really nice. So maybe in the future we'll see more of those, who knows. But that could be nice to see. Maybe at some point they turn up, who knows. Right, then we have the next one. We have Lucas Moreno. I want to bring some points about the whole Latam thing as a Brazilian myself. First, yes, the whole nationalism thing is stupid in War Thunder, and the example I think is the most relevant is the Super Tucano. It's a plane that fits nowhere in the game, like any other modern super prop, yet many want to see it in the game, because why not? Yeah, the Latam tech tree isn't that stupid of a thing when you notice that many of the vehicles are actually viable in game, and yet have no place in any regular tech tree. They do have places in regular tech trees. All of them do. Every single one. The Osorio definitely has a place in a regular tech tree. Don't know why people keep saying this, but the Osorio tank as a vehicle, right? I understand it's like built by Brazil. I understand that everybody thinks, you know, the good old vehicle is, you know, completely Brazilian, literally has the L7 gun. So I don't it's or it could have the French like 120. So I don't get why. What do you mean it can't be fit in a different tree? Like, whatever. It would be quite similar to the Israel tech tree. Yes, exactly, and that's a problem because the Israel tech tree is bad, right? And it would also have copy-paste vehicles. Blah 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 blah. Second, the whole weird nationalism you mention isn't weird at all when you notice all of it comes from a position where Latam people often feel excluded from the global scenario. What? Even though they often have one of the most relevant players on the scene. When Gaulle said this major is for Brazil, he didn't mean that people outside Latam were excluded from the event. No, when Gaules said that, he was literally saying it was just for Brazil. Not even Latam. Just Brazil. He literally said that. This is for us. This is not for you. He was saying that at an international event. You do realize that Gaules actually has lost the rights to actually host the Portuguese version of the major now? Because of that shit? You can't tell me that when somebody says, this is for us, this is for Brazil, it actually means something completely different. It is he's done it millions of times. This idea of, you don't need this, this is for us, screw you. That's his idea, man. He said it so many times. He didn't mean that people outside Latam were excluded from the event. You know what's funny? It's not that they're excluded. It's the fact that the major in Brazil, the Rio major that they had in CSGO, none of the Brazilians watched any of the other matches that didn't involve Brazilian teams. So they might as well have been excluded. Because they just didn't care. Which is the problem with the mentality. If you say stuff like, this is for us, not for anyone else, it isn't the fact that other people turn around and go, oh, well, okay then, I'm just going to not watch. That will happen, by the way, but that's not the issue. It's the fact that from Brazil itself, they are saying they don't care about you. They don't care about anything you do. Because you are over there and we are over here. And that's exactly what happened at the major. It's broad daylight. Broad daylight. There's no guesses, there's no nothing. It was right there. They didn't care about any other team that didn't have Brazilians in it. Simple got a Lifetime Achievement Award. Simple, the best player in CSGO. Right? Easily the best, by far. Fantastic to watch. Nobody was there watching. They were all outside partying because Brazil. Right? And as I said, he's literally just lost the co-streaming rights to the first CS2 major because he kept pulling this stuff over and over again. But that Brazil was the main player of the game, but you weren't. That's the point. That's the whole point of games. There isn't a main player. There isn't like a country which is a main player. This is what I mean by the mentality just being screwed. For some reason, so many people from Brazil and so many people from other countries, like Russians do this a lot too. They do this us versus them thing. It's either you have the power or we have the power. And sometimes we want the power. Why can't we all just have some? Why can't we all just be happy? Why can't that happen? You know? All eyes were looking at Brazil. Yeah, but Brazil was not looking at anybody else. Once again, that's the issue. Of course, this all might be weird for you, but that's because the people of first world countries are well represented throughout history and culture. So it is weird that someone would be that proud of being the center of attention when they have always been. When you're part of the people that almost never have such attention, suddenly having all of it feels really good. Simple as that. Canada has only existed for like 150 years or some shit. So I don't get where that's from. Every other country learns about their own history. You do know that, right? You want actually a really good view of this, right? Okay? European history is hardly taught in American schools. European history is taught a lot in Europe, funnily enough. And basically, when it comes to the internet, it's run by America. So everything you hear is American. So there's a metric ton of countries that don't get this type of coverage. You never hear about Lithuania, Romania, Bulgaria, you know, Hungary, any place like this. If you want a perfect example of this idea, right? Of the fact that everybody knows or learns their own version of history from their own country through their own biases, go watch that interview from Tucker Carlson and Putin from the other day. 30 minutes, the first 30 minutes of that interview. Just go listen to that. And then go ask yourself, is that the right version of history? Is that the wrong version of history? Why is that massively different from what you've read? Because this idea that everybody else in the world just all agrees on these things, apart from this country over here, because they're, I don't know, not looked at by anybody else. It's crazy, man. And there's so many other countries in the world that don't get any recognition. Brazil gets a metric ton of recognition. You get recognition through football, you get recognition through the Olympics, you got recognition through, once again, the CSGO Major, right? Brazil had the Football World Cup recently. They had the Olympics recently. You get constant coverage of these things. Like, what are you talking about? You can't just exist in a world where these things don't happen. Where you're not on the world map. As if people like Neymar just don't exist. Do you think anybody knows anyone from like Guatemala? Like, what are you talking? You have a country of like 80, 90 million people, and you're acting as if nobody cares. That nobody knows anything about Brazil. Through the power of the internet, a metric ton of people do know about Brazil. And do know the history, and do know all these things. It was part of my studies at school about South America and how it all set up and how it became what it is now. Right? But yeah, we just don't know about it because it just doesn't happen. Because you, a Brazilian, in Brazil, say it doesn't happen. Sorry, 180 million. My bad. So just remember, Canada has like 30, 40 million people in it. Britain has like 60, 70 million people in it. But yeah, you can't just play the you don't understand card when unfortunately I do understand. Because I've seen it over and over and over and over again with that part of the world. So it's weird that we'll be that proud of being the center of attention when they have always been. When you're part of the people that almost never have such attention, suddenly having all of it feels really good. Simple as that. And it goes to the point that we will support our people on places that we don't really enjoy because we take pride on seeing our people succeeding and competing against main players. Okay, that's just insane. I don't know how else to put it. One of the greatest things about gaming, one of the greatest things about even esports, or one of the greatest things about the internet is the barriers between nations and the barriers between people are literally shutting down, right? Meaning that if you want to learn about cultures, it's so much easier to even go there nowadays. Or it's so much easier to talk to people from there and ask them how it is, right? In esports, like, for the longest time, I don't care where people are from. I just want to see the best people play stuff. I want to see people like Rops, who is probably from some kind of Scandinavian country or German country, bang people's heads off. I want to see, like, boxers, you know, who are the best in the world. I want to see footballers who are from everywhere. I just want to see the best guys. I don't care what their flag is. Like, you've got to understand how insane it seems from the outsider's perspective. Because it isn't the fact that people don't care about Brazilians. People do care about Brazilians. There's so many famous Brazilians. Like, I don't know how else to put it. Like, once again, with football, with other sports, esports, people like Fallen, you know, people like Neymar, there's a ton of them. Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, the other Ronaldo, you know, Thingy Jr. with the free kicks, stuff like that. There's just a metric ton of them all over the place, man. People know these guys. They don't know anybody from Chile. They don't know anybody from Mexico unless they're a cartel member. They don't know anyone from Panama. This is such a crazy mentality. And what the mentality ends up doing... Roberto Carlos, there you go. Pele, exactly. One of the most famous footballers around. Maradona from Argentina, right? People know these people. But the problem is this is what happens. It isn't that people don't care about your country. It's the fact that you don't care about anybody else's. Most people in the world, on the internet, and who are involved in these things, are generally interested in other things. But the fact that you have this mentality where you only care about your own thing and absolutely nothing else is nuts. And also hugely prejudicial, which is exactly what I said about this thing. And you've just proved it with these two paragraphs. We only care about these things because they're from this region. And if it's not from this region, we don't care about it. That's crazy. Because you feel like you don't see any media around it from the outside. Even though, as somebody living in the outside, I'm telling you there's a ton of media about Brazil. Whether it's your elections, whether it's your sports, whether it's even, as I said, the Olympics, you know, or World Cup, or the forests, or even over here, there was a big thing about the indigenous people of Brazil and what was going on over there. Like, it's nuts, man. It's so crazy. So crazy to me that that's the mindset. And you've got to understand that from an outsider's perspective, that's nuts. You know? It's crazy. So we have type 10. Hey Tech, hi. I can actually do an event for once because of time. The F2 got leaked, but let's be honest, it's not real and it's way more advanced. What? It got leaked? What do you mean it got leaked? This event is nice, but I find it funny. It's about the year of the dragon in China, but it's a Russian vehicle, but it's cool either way. Yeah, it's a bit odd, but they did it because of the... They did it because of the lunar year, right? But it's a Russian vehicle, but sorry, the Type 93 at 11 is actually not that bad. You just have to wait for the perfect moment. It's been going well for me in China. It's been fun in the 6-7 lineup. Let's all have a nice day. You too, man. Hopefully you have a good time. This event so far has been pretty good. You know, it's been working pretty well for me. So hopefully it's good for other people. We can get it done. So we have Gianmarco Marzo. Hi TEC, hope you're having a great day. Hope you are too. Hopefully life is treating you well. Need one more mod for the Trento. Slowly but surely grinding this damn thing out. Eugenio de Savoia got as well. Do I want the Abruzzi or the Zara? Oh, the Abruzzi only has 152s? Jesus Christ. After the implausible wave of CC mobilized votes and likes on the Latam tech tree, I've finally seen the light. I've renounced the false god of subtrees, tech tree condensation, and tech tree reform, and embraced the true light of chucking in as many half-baked independent tech trees as the game code can handle, possibly all at once. In light of the spiritual realization, I have compiled a short list of independent tech trees that the game urgently needs, in growing order of importance. The Aztec tech tree, the Cthulhu Mythos tech tree, the Mass Effect tech tree. Watch people complain about CAS when a sovereign class battleship incinerates half the map from the orbit of a giant laser. Okay, in all seriousness, even before I knew that the post had been manipulated, I just couldn't understand how someone could look at a vehicle line full of M24s and M41 variants and think, yep, this needs to be its own tech tree in game. It really is the Israeli situation all over again. The nationalistic CC call to arms makes it even more distasteful. Yeah, because they're not doing it for the vehicles, they're doing it for the flag. Like that's literally it. It sucks. It really does. Like, and it's not about like what is good for the game. It's not about what is beneficial. Nothing. It's just a flag. And not even a real flag. A fake flag. Please feel free to continue the list above with your own ideas. I mean, I've always liked the technical idea, you know, or spaceships and things like that. Let's just get like the Sontaran tech tree. The Cybermen tech tree. We already have a working prototype with that mobile infantry stuff. Every time a Sontaran destroys a vehicle, it gets an upgrade from it. Has to keep going, you know. Oh, don't mind me. Oh boy, here we go. Ahem. Oh dear. As a Brazilian, clearly my opinion should be held up to the highest regard when it comes to Latin tech tree. No, in fact, we alone should be the ones to decide what will come of this tree concept. Being part of the Council of the High Order is a great prestige. Yet I assume you greater are the responsibilities that comes with such a position. For the common man shall never understand the restraints that one must pose to pronounce somebody a war criminal for not being on our side. Jokes aside, I don't really mind whether Latam comes to the game or not. Although if it really comes to the game, I would prefer that it gets introduced as subtrees of M vehicles or premiums. Since I imagine the three options above are the ones that create less friction in their pipeline and don't result in an Israel 2.0. Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, it's pretty much, like, as I've said before, should these vehicles come to the game? Yes. Should they be in an independent tech tree? No. There you go. Solve world hunger with that one. All good. Everybody gets what they want. And you don't have to play a dog shit tech tree. Fantastic. But I don't understand, because I'm not from there, so I'm not allowed to like read books, and I'm not allowed to interact with people from those regions. You know, and everybody I do interact with just lies to me according to other people from those regions. So yeah, it's just going around in circles. Then we have the only Lilin. Hey, once again, Tech. I've deleted so many comments over the past couple Tech Talks just before you stream on Fridays, mainly because mostly it's a bunch of random shower thoughts sprinkled with War Thunder stuff. Anyways, you made a video on One Death Leavers this week. I'm going to be bold and shameless to say that I'm proud to be one. Ooh! I mean, I know quite a few, and, you know, people play the game how they want. It is how it is. Mainly because of CAS in my experience. If one death leaving is ruining the experience of the majority, if this makes me an awful kind of player, then so be it. I'm not wasting my sanity and joy. I'll move on and just go to the next match. Getting bombed and strafed is not a fun experience. I want to play my favorite tanks, not play AAs or planes. Just try to hunt them down. To be honest, if Gaijin just changed the name of the game code instead of Grand RB, something like Mixed RB, then yeah, I'd be fine. I signed up for Grand RB to fight against tanks, not swatting flies. Thanks to the vids as always. Also got that Yu anime decal, and I'm making most of my tanks to Wiimobiles. And at the end of the day, you know, everybody plays the game how they want, right? And, you know, I think that's the good thing about War Thunder. It's like the blessing and the curse in it. So the blessing, oh no, the blessing of War Thunder is there are a million ways of playing it, and pretty much everybody can tailor it to their own experience. The problem with War Thunder is there's a million ways to play it, and everyone can tailor it to their experience. Because since you have tailored it to your experience, you have probably negatively affected somebody else's experience. And that is how the cookie crumbles, you know? That's just how it goes at the end of the day. It is how it is. But yeah, like, you know, I don't have anything against I don't have anything against anybody actually you know, playing the game how they want. There are obviously playstyles which, you know, are generally a little bit more interesting to watch or chat about, but it is how it is. People are always just going to play how they want anyway. Oh, true. I should talk to Coca-Cola about the death squads, right? We should get them involved. Get this all sorted. Then we have Fox here. Sure, put a whole tree for Latin, but the smaller you countries, you put one shit tank in some tech tree and call it a day, even though there are so many great tanks around. Well, luckily this was just a user project, so, you know, it doesn't mean it comes to the game. Like, that's the thing, right? It's just a talking point, because as always it is. Then we have Sent Sam. Greetings again, Tech. I've been catching up on so many of your past Tech Talks recently, and I must say, you sure do got some patience with some of these people. Patience is a virtue. Oscar Wilde. Quoting somebody else in The Picture of Dorian Gray. It's, patience is a very important skill in life. I will definitely agree with that. The only thing is you have to know where your patience gets worn too thin. And I think I've finally worked that one out. Like where the cutoff point is. You know what I mean? Like okay, bye. Like that kind of thing. And I think it's important to have that. Where do these people come from, Tech? These people are obsessed with the idea of landmines being added to the game. It's astonishing. I can't think of another more pointless, dreary, anti-player mechanic that could possibly be added to ground battles. Well, when you come from the mindset of you see this thing in real life and therefore want it represented in the game, that's pretty much where they're coming from, right? So they're coming from the point of we have all these other things from real life, and this thing exists in real life, so I want this thing in the game from real life, right? A weapon system that is solely designed to restrict an AFE's ability to function and act on the battlefield, on the pain of being disabled, severely damaged, or outright destroyed. That is completely outside the agency of players to influence or counter. Just what we needed most. It's just like submarines, anti-aircraft carriers, strike drones, sea, cluster munitions, logistics, and whatever piss-poor deluded crap build half-baked fancy these NPCs come up with and obsess over. Again, I'm routinely astounded. It honestly is because they read on the internet these things existing and they go, I want that in the game, without thinking of the repercussions. It is just straight up that. Like that's it. Like I know like I want there to be like a deep conspiracy about like these you know when people say they see demons telling them to do things, like who was the guy with the dog where he said the son of Sam, like where Sam was like, yeah, the dog told me to do it, you know, that's why I killed those people, it was the dog. I really wish that these people were like the dog, but they just aren't. It is a lot less interesting than that. It is literally monkey see, monkey do, right? Like it's one person who goes, I've seen this in real life, I think it would be cool, and then you have like 20 or 30 or 40 other people who go, oh, that isn't in the game, that would be cool, and they just don't put any thought into it. And then when you turn around and go, oh, well, have you thought about this? And they go, well, I just think it would be cool. And then they've already moved on to the next thing, because it's a revolving door of different ideas. That's why you have like certain ideas that just like rotate over the years in War Thunder, right? Luckily, some of these ideas have been pretty much destroyed. Historical matchmaking took a big hit last year because, hey presto, it's really stupid. But, you know, like it finally, once again, narratives are slowly changing, you know, over years and years and years, which is lovely to see, you know? These people scare me, Tech. You're a good dude for being so patient and courteous to these people. Keep up the good work and keep fighting the good fight, dismantling the delusion. Well, I mean, everyone has to have their say, right? That's the whole thing of this. And I think it's good for everybody to have their say. No matter what I personally think about things, it's important to have these discussions. Whether it is agreement, disagreement, or whatever, if this platform or this area doesn't exist, then where do we actually either combat or go through these things? In this tech talk, we've had a ton of really cool suggestions, like really interesting stuff actually. That's kind of like stuck in my head and I've kind of thought about, you know, for a little bit, and already just like sat, it's pretty cool. Do you remember Guardian's response during that one Q&A where they were asked where they added the strike drones? Drones are a part of the modern battlefield or some nonsense like that. Literally made my jaw drop on how stupid it was. Yeah, that's what they said. They said it's part of the modern battlefield, that's why they added them. Which, to be honest, is not the only... They should have been truthful about it, because that's like a half-truth, right? Yeah, they're part of the modern battlefield, and also at the same time, with the invasion of Ukraine, drones became like the hot topic. It's also super easy to develop and model the drones, which is why they came out pretty quickly, and at the same time, one of the problems that a lot of people have talked about is the fact that they didn't want to grind the aircraft tech trees. They didn't want to grind the helicopter tech trees. They didn't want to do this. They just wanted to play ground, and that was it. Hey, presto, how do you fix that? Well, you put in a go-go button, which basically says, oh, if you have enough SP, you can spawn in this thing, and you can get some cast kills for free. So, yeah, that's what they did, to placate the people who don't want to grind the tech trees. And look what happened. Pretty rough, right? Pretty rough. But what it did do is it kind of showed, you know, the issue that Cass is at high tier without having to really do too much else. It was quite impressive, actually. But yeah, so... 2 birds, 1 stone. But yeah, there's been a few of them in the more recent Q&As where they just say stuff that's completely ridiculous. Like the BR adjusted thing, right? Like, you know, Alex and I were talking about it because we were like, wait, we've read this somewhere. Like you know, in the roadmap where they're doing BR based game mode stuff now. You know, they're gonna start with specific vehicles and probably like spread it out. Last year, right? Last year in a Q&A in February 2023, they literally wrote the reason why they haven't even continued with that discussion or even thought about implementing it, right, is because the efficiency of these vehicles was basically the same across the game modes. This was while they were moving around their BRs, right? They were moving around their BRs all over the place. People were constantly complaining about these new strike aircraft that they added because they were going up against stuff that couldn't counter them at all. And now a lot of them are now raised in BR and are pretty useless in certain game modes. It was crazy. The reason why, or at least the reason I was told for many years why they weren't able to do this, was kind of like a way that the game was set up kind of issue. So like a coding problem. It was never the fact that these things were balanced in all of the game modes. Because even a ferret who was high off, I don't know, nitrous oxide could see that wasn't the case. Crazy. But yeah, some of the Q&As always have like that one wild answer. And I think we're actually ready for a Q&A. Usually they do a Q&A around this time. Maybe with the roadmap and stuff they're not going to do it, but we'll see what goes on with that. So we have Mahiwu, which says Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore and the USSR does. In our hearts. Now the reason why instead of like the reason why I don't take the Yugoslavian thing seriously and the reason why I just dismiss it is because all of those conversations that you've had over these last few years about like what vehicles should be in it and stuff, I had 8 years ago. So like basically the reason I just dismiss it and the reason why I say Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore is because there's a lot of people who are very patriotic about Yugoslavia that doesn't exist anymore. So it's a way just to trigger this stuff, not the fact that you can't add it to the game because it doesn't exist anymore, right? Like that's why. There's no need to be patriotic for something that doesn't exist anymore. Right? But a lot of people are. Weird. Because usually they're from those regions. And guess what? There's a lot of people from those regions. And all of them don't have a lot of stuff to do. Apart from fight over traffic things. Because, you know, they needed number plates changed. And they weren't going to have the correct the correct country on their number plates. So therefore it's very annoying. And therefore we have to have a border incident. Over number plates. Serbia, man. Crazy. But yeah, so it's just that. It's just a way of dismissing it because the idea is ludicrous and shouldn't be done. Yugoslavia as a nation would fit fantastically as subtectories. Or even just standard vehicles or event vehicles or whatever you want to do. They're actually perfect for it. So this idea of kind of a combined Yugoslav tech tree is as ridiculous as other ones. I still need to come up with like a saying just to say it to the Latam thing. Maybe just go to Brazil or come to Brazil. Maybe we'll just say that. Morning, Red Ned. Nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. Hopefully life's alright. Then we have Blue Bud. Why not the Yugoslavian tech tree? Yugoslavia has unique low-tier vehicles and modifications of them, like 122mm Sherman, modified T-34. Gaijin could add the Czech line in the Yugoslavian tech tree. Heck, even Polish prototypes can be added as event vehicles or premiums. Latin tech tree has less vehicles than Israel. Depends if you count the vehicles from Israel to be unique or not. Right. How about this? We take all the vehicles from Yugoslavia, right? And we put them in the USSR tech tree. Sounds good to me. Oh, no, actually, okay, if you're not okay with that, and you're not happy with that, you know, because you're a bit odd about it, right? Okay, that's fine. We'll just stick in the French tree. Let's do that. But yeah, two wrongs don't make a right, as always in life. Very, very important thing. Just because one thing is bad doesn't mean the other thing is good. It can be two things are bad. Maybe one is just worse. Just because one thing was added that shouldn't have been added doesn't mean we need more of that thing. Yeah, add it to Israel. Yugoslavian tech tree in Israel. Screw it. Why not? You know? Make that tech tree actually more interesting than just the same vehicles over and over again. So we have Jesus Christ. The fuck, bridge layers? What? Yeah, let's go. You're not on the bridge layer hype train. Come on. If you get your silly ass tech trees, I'm getting my bridge layers. That's how it works, you know? Because if all bets are off, I'm just going to start doing stupid things. Because that's basically what everyone else is doing. So I'll just join the herd. You know? Let's get our vehicles doing Fortnite dances. Let's get our vehicles, you know, doing the floss or whatever it's called. I want horns in the game for standard vehicles. Every vehicle just has a horn, and you can just blast it whenever. I want realistic crews. So basically, if you lose crew members, you lose all their crew skills. You know, let's do all this stuff. Let's go. Let's go crazy. Why not? Like, you know. Yeah, exactly. Big jugs, you know? Update big jugs. We got all the anime characters in. They add a mechanic where you pop the cupola of your favorite vehicle and just a big anime titty woman comes out. And then, you know, as the boobs hit the cupola, they do this. So then everybody's happy. There you go. Simple as. And if you don't like that, it's because you're a sexist. And if you don't want the Yugoslavian tech tree in the Israeli tech tree, it's because you're a racist. Do we want to continue playing this game? It's not a very fun game. It's a pretty boring game, actually. Good evening, Marlo. Nice to see you. I remember when Tech was saying great talk with 3 great ideas, how the tables have turned. So then we have Cuban Spy. I wonder if we should trust him or not. Does he have the missile codes? He is my favorite. I mean, gringo is an offensive word, isn't it? You're not really supposed to do that. But that's okay because it's fine in their culture. So that's all right. Because my culture doesn't matter because, you know, that's how we work in the world. Only certain cultures are allowed to actually have cultural capital according to the previous set of people, because I just don't understand. All right. Oh, not gear down. That's how all this stuff works, you know. All right, let's see what it says. Where is well, it's not English, is it? Is any... Let's see. Translate from Spanish. You are my favorite gringo tech mature bear. Well, fair enough. It's not very fun. Oh, it's going to be more interesting. Where is the airfield? There it is. So then we have OZ, or Oz. Israel should have been a US subtree, given how Taiwan is in a Chinese subtree. The reason why the Chinese tech tree is called China, not CCCP, which should have been kind of seen, is because it's based around maybe different histories. One love, one vision. Yeah, we went through all the Chinese stuff when that first came out. You know what was really fun? Going back to an earlier discussion about history and also about learning about the cultures and also learning about all these things. When the Chinese tech tree was added, that was fantastic because I got to sit there and for like when I was like a teenager, like 17, 18, 19, for some reason I just learned a lot about China. Don't know why. Started learning about their history, started learning about, different parts of them, how they went from what they were then, like more divided, now into a more united setup, and kind of just learned over the years about what kind of went on. So it was super fun. It was super fun when the came out, when the Chinese tech tree came out, because what ended up happening was I could just watch a bunch of people from all over the world saying some of the craziest stuff possible because it was China. Not really anything else. It was really interesting to watch, actually. And the main set of people who were super aggravated by the Chinese tech tree that I met wasn't Americans. There was a lot of Americans who were annoyed because, of course, the geopolitical stuff and how you're told that you just got to hate China no matter what happens, and they do all of these evil things all the time, which they do, by the way. But also, the interesting thing for me that I found that so many people hated, right? It was the Scandinavians. It was the Northern Europeans. For some reason. There was a bunch of like Norwegians and Dutchy boys and Swedish people who just got really annoyed at the Chinese tech tree because of how it was set up. And then when I sent them all the links, the books that they should read, the books that I read like 10 years ago, learning about the Cultural Revolution, learning about what happened between 1920, 1950, and then what happened in the 60s and 70s, and then what happened in the 80s because of what happened in the 70s, their brains melted and they just didn't know what to do. Because it's two countries, bro. It was wild. That was a fantastic time. Because that was when I had people who called themselves historians because they could look up stuff on the internet, completely contradicting what standard historians were saying about the region. It was amazing because, once again, the history of it has become political, and it's political from both sides. So therefore, the way that the story is told from each perspective is completely different, which is nuts. It's actually really cool. And it was one of the things that I talked with other people about who've done the whole studying history or doing stuff like that, especially from like an English university point of view. The fact is that there isn't just just one telling of these things. And the question is, who do you believe? Kind of fun. So we have Jada. Oh, Hoi 4 historians are the best. I don't know who's better, Hoi 4 historians or Hoi 4 generals. Wait, you guys get super crappy special offers? I don't think I've ever seen one. I must spread my wallet flaps too often. Secondly, I don't agree with anything we spend real life cash on being time gated. Example, any boosters received from buying the battle pass, GE ship boxes, etc. should not have a time limit. Fair enough. Lastly, who the hell doesn't own an air fryer? Get with the times tech. Just thought I'd throw that in from a past tech talk. I have a toaster oven. I have an oven, kettle. I got a coffee maker thing. I got a rice cooker. I got a pressure cooker. I got everything, but I ain't buying an air fryer. I'm now doing it out of spite because I've actually cleared an area in the house where an air fryer would sit. I'm gonna do it out of spite now. Oh dear, he ripped his wings. Sad. I'd rather just have a convection oven, like a proper one. So yeah. But yeah, the special offers are still rolling in, by the way. And you can see what they're doing now with all of their general stuff, right? Like they're obviously doing it now, so they're going to spread out a lot of the sales. We've already had a pretty serious Japan sale and a pretty serious Chinese sale the last like week or so. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more stuff like that going forward. Which I think in general is not that bad. Like, it's probably better to split these things up instead of just having these mega sales all the time. Maybe they'll do both, you know, who knows. You had a finished BF-109 yesterday? Praise the gods. A rare bird. Then we have like your cut G, which says first. So there we go. You are first, but also last. That is the end of the comments on the Tech Talk video. Obviously quite a lot of them. But, you know, all of the ones which weren't talking about tech tree stuff, turns out they were pretty good. Tech tree ones, obviously not so much. The question, as always, is do you guys have any questions before we wrap up the end of this tech talk and kind of see what the weekend brings us? Well, I'm still going to be streaming, Alex, but you know, we just won't be doing the tech talk stuff. I kind of need to do my dailies and also Lamb Sun, so like I haven't actually done a single daily yet, which is kind of worrying. Can we have a tech tree in War Thunder, please? Why not? If you could permanently delete one vehicle from War Thunder, which one would it be? Probably the R2Y2. The R2Y2 or the K50. Or or maybe the Super Corsa. Weirdly enough. The KV-1B doesn't need to be deleted, it just needs to be up-tiered. Now that we have the new event cycle, from a money perspective, it makes sense to get a new sales system. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. The Oosh is annoying, yeah. Opinion on the Czechoslovakian versus Turkish trees that are coming. I mean, at least Czechs would be fun. Question from Steam. Does War Thunder punish you for doing well? I played pretty long time yesterday, around 8 hours. I would guess in that time, my team won maybe 75% of the games I was in, and I very rarely went fewer than 6 or so kills. Today, on the other hand, I have been getting absolutely and entirely shat on. Of the last 20 games I played, my team has won once, and the highest kill count I've gotten in a match is 3. The majority of games, I'm lucky if I break 1 kill. What the hell is going on? I usually do pretty well, but this is just so demoralizing. What? Dude had a rough day and he thinks that the matchmaking's punishing him. JU288, yeah, that's another one. That is amazing. They have specifically targeted you. Sometimes, like, it does feel like that, I suppose, but no, obviously, you're not being targeted. Like, just remember, only you are your main character. Favorite Post Malone song? Let's see. I can't remember the names. I like the one where he's pushing the block. Let's see. There is one where Morning. I like Morning. Morning and also the Circles one. I think both of those are good. But to be honest, like Post Malone has a lot of very, very good music, you know. Like it's just nice to listen to. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but for me, I find it very enjoyable. Do 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 da 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 da. Yeah. Okay, we'll end the tech talk here. Oh, just a gameplay question. Why aren't you using the additional gun pods this MiG has? Because I'm bombing bases, basically. With this bomb loadout, I can get 1.5 bases, and our special task is to bomb bases. And the MiG is the most kind of like relaxing way to do it right now, since I've spaded everything else out that could do it. So it's the easiest way where I can turn my brain off and do it and not really worry about anything. If I was running this thing as a fighter, I would definitely bring the gun pods. But also, if I was running this thing as a fighter, I would be running a different MiG-23, because there are many of them that are in much better positions than this to do that. That guy's running the rocket pods and some bombs to make himself a bit lighter and quicker, and also because rockets you can fire without having to worry about stuff. Right, that's the end of the tech talk. We'll continue streaming, but as always, hopefully you enjoyed it, and see you next week on YouTube.